Good to go. Good to go.
Yep, it's just coming up on my screen. I've just got to press got it. Got it. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting, this 28th of September 2021. My name is Helena Kirby and I'm the Mayor of the Golden Plains Shire Council. Tonight, this council's meeting is taking place virtually and being presented in a different way via live stream. The public are encouraged to watch virtual meetings through live streaming, which is available on Council's website and YouTube page. As chair of the meeting, I give my consent for this open council meeting to be recorded and published online in accordance with section 14 of Council's governance rules of 2020. The stream will stop at the conclusion of the meeting. Should technical issues prevent the continuation of the stream, every effort will be made to bring the stream back online as soon as possible. A recording will be made available on Council's website following the meeting. I will now run through the procedures to ensure the meeting runs as smoothly as possible. In accordance with requirement 1 of the Minister's Good Practice Guideline, I will address each councillor individually to confirm the following: that they can hear the proceedings, they can see other councillors in attendance, they can be seen by other councillors, and they can be heard when speaking. If a councillor is unable to confirm that they can hear and see the proceedings, or if they cannot be seen or heard, they will be recorded as absent in the minutes and be ineligible to vote on agenda items. I will now confirm that all councillors can be seen and heard. Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getson, can you please confirm that I can be seen and heard?
I can hear you, Madam Mayor, and be heard, and I can only see Councillor Whitfield and Sharkey.
Thank you. I'm just wondering there.
It'll be the setup of his screen.
Okay. You might have to go to participants. Councillor Getson, you might have to change the participants on your screen.
But as long as you can see and hear him.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Councillor Ian Getson, can you please now confirm that you can see all the other councillors? Can you see them at all now?
No, not as yet. They come up and flashed off again. I did go to participants and I've got 14 participants.
Okay. Councillor Brett Cunningham, can you please confirm that you can hear and see other councillors?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I can hear all councillors and I can also see all councillors taking part in tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gavin Gamble, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the other councillors?
Yes, Mayor Kirby, I can see all the other councillors and hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. Councillor Les Rowe, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the other councillors? You're on mute, Councillor Rowe.
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, listen, I can view and hear all fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Owen Sharkey, can you please confirm that you can see and hear all the councillors?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I can see and hear all councillors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Clayton Whitfield, can you please confirm that you can hear and see the other councillors?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I can see and hear all other councillors.
Thank you. If any councillor drops out during the meeting, they will be recorded as having left the meeting at that time and the meeting will continue as normal. If a councillor rejoins the meeting, I will, in accordance with requirement 1 of the Minister's Good Practice Guideline, again ask the councillor to confirm that they can hear the proceedings, see others in attendance and can be heard. Upon this confirmation, it will be recorded in the minutes that the councillor rejoined the meeting. Councillors, if you would like to move or second a motion, please raise your hand in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera. Councillors, when voting on a matter, please also raise your hand either for or against the motion in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera. Please leave your hand raised until I've declared the motion as being carried or lost. If you wish to speak to an item during debate, please also raise your hand in a manner that can be clearly seen on your computer's camera and leave your hand raised until I have asked you to speak. This will allow me, as the Mayor, to manage the debate accordingly. When you are not speaking, please ensure that you are on mute. Thank you. I will now recite the opening declaration on behalf of all councillors. We, the councillors of the Golden Plains Shire, declare that we will undertake on every occasion to carry out our duties in the best interests of the community, and that our conduct shall maintain the standards of the Code of Good Governance, so that we may faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in this council by the people of the Golden Plains Shire. Acknowledgement of country. Golden Plains Shire spans the traditional lands of the Wadawurrung and Eastern Maar people. We acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians. Council pays its respects to Wadawurrung elders past, present and emerging. Council also respects Eastern Maar elders past, present and emerging. Council extends that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the Golden Plains Shire. Apologies and leave of absence. Are there any apologies for this meeting or requests for leave of absence, councillors? None. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, we have a resolution before us to confirm the meetings of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 24th of August 2021 as circulated. Can I have a mover? Councillor Rowe. Do I have a seconder? Councillor
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I've got a question.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to share. I find the meeting minutes are not a true and correct recording of the meeting. During items 7.11 and 7.12 of this council agenda, I had difficulties with the internet and dropped out for a total of 5 minutes, as the Mayor, councillors and CEO witnessed. It is noticed at the start of this meeting, if any councillor drops out during the meeting, they will be recorded as have left the meeting at that time, and the meeting will continue as normal. If a councillor rejoins the meeting in accordance with requirement 1 of the Minister's Good Practice Guideline, again ask the councillor to confirm they can hear the proceedings, see others in attendance and can be heard. Upon this confirmation, it will be recorded in the minutes that the councillor rejoining the meeting. I have read these minutes and I can't find any such recording in these minutes to reflect this. So that was all.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. We will have those minutes amended. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getson, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Declaration of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest, councillors? None. Thank you. Public question time. No public questions have been submitted for tonight's meeting. We will now move on to consider the formal agenda. There has been a registration to make a public submission tonight after the introduction of the report. I will call for the submitter forward via Zoom. For those presenting, I'd like to remind you of the speaking times allocated. Each presenter may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes, and I ask you to respect the timeline, please. To assist presenters with this, a timer will be displayed in front of me. One bell will sound when you are nearing the maximum time allowed, and 2 bells will sound when your time has expired. 2 minutes will then be allocated for a councillor to ask questions of the presenter. I note that this is not a time for debate. Business reports for decision. Item 7.1, the Delegates report. I'll pass this on to Mr. Braslis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as shown in the report, this report highlights the actions of council over the last 4 weeks, highlighting many of the attendances at a number of committees and functions throughout the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braslis. Do we have any councillors who'd like to speak to their reports tonight? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say, as well as my reported attendance at delegated board committee meetings, I also attended a meeting with the Shelford Playgroup Rec Reserve Committee and also a meeting regarding the Lyndon Town Hall. Both I found very informative, and once again, I acknowledge the attendance of council officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson. You're on mute, Councillor Getson. You're still on mute.
How's that now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Regards to the 3 I attended, also attended a Zoom on the Lincoln Shire Hall, and also one in person at the Shire offices, which only 4 people attended. That's all. I'm going to have a bit of trouble with this, actually.
All right, thanks, Councillor Getson. You're fine now. You did freeze for a minute.
Sorry, if you can still hear me, my internet's unstable. It's coming up as we speak.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Getson. Is there any other councillors who'd like? Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, this month, once again, getting out and meeting with the community groups was curtailed by COVID restrictions, but I managed to do a couple of Zoom things, and one was along with yourself, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Sharkey. We all attended the citizenship ceremony, where it was a pleasure to see 9 people from Golden Plains become Australians. The G21 board invited Golden Plains councillors to attend the meeting on Zoom as observers, and I did that. Also, councillors took part this month in the CEO review committee meeting, and that's about all I got to this month. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any other councillors? Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended early in the month, so 8th of September, I attended an Environmental Friends and Agencies meeting, Zoom meeting, on evaluating the progress they've made this year. On the 14th of September, along with Councillor Cunningham, I attended the Shelford community meeting. That was to outline agreement with representatives from different community groups in Shelford, which was great to see that they were able to cooperate and get along and make good decisions for the agreed decisions for what they think is best for their community. And there was 2 councillors there representing us, and there were 3 officers. That was a really good turnout. And the main point of that meeting was to expanding on the preferred location for a future play space for Shelford. And that new precinct along there looks like, or what could be a precinct, further establishing it, will be a really good thing. On Thursday, the 23rd, I went to a climate webinar. I bring this up because it was run by the city's power partnership, which is a local government program established by the Climate Council. Now, the Climate Council is Australia's leading non-profit climate change and advocacy group, with people like Tim Flannery and Will Stefford on it. And the Cities Power Partnership is particularly aimed at local governments. So this was a new thing for me. And they have a membership of over 150 LGAs around Australia, covering 60% of Australians. The information is really good. It's a free program designed to help councils celebrate and collaborate on clean economic initiatives. So I'm letting you all know that I'll be asking that we could join as well and be part of this. There's also their specific aim is to help councils with the global shift to a clean economy. Yesterday, also, I attended another EVEN meeting. I'm on the steering committee of the Central West Environment Volunteer Network, and David Collins, our Environment Officer, was also there. And a big part of that is reviewing and planning for 2022. And there's a link to my Councillor Gavin Gamble Facebook page if people want to see more about what they're doing in that space. Thank you.
Great, Gavin. Councillor Gamble, thank you very much. Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Appreciating that this month gone by has largely affected particularly our neighbouring councils with lockdown. I did want to just give a massive shout out. I attended a couple of jabs, COVID jabs, or Pfizer jabs at the old Shire Hall, personally myself, and had the pleasure of taking my 3 children there last Sunday. So it's fantastic to see the old Shire Hall being used by Bannockburn Surgery there. I just wanted to give a massive shout out to all the frontline workers down there that are helping protect the community by vaccinating. We as councillors are actively I see all our emails at the moment are going out there with the message to get the jab and get it done. So just noting that in Golden Plains we are at 75% first people that have been double dosed, and 48% of people have had single dose. So one would think with those figures that approximately 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks' time, we will have 80% of our community, and hopefully we head towards a little bit more normality in this crazy world. But just wanted to acknowledge those people down there, and it's they're doing, the nurses down there and doctors doing a fantastic job. So big shout out to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe.
No, nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, can I just ask Councillor Rowe if he could have the portfolio report amended? As it was noted, he didn't attend the last corporate services portfolio meeting. That would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Okay. All right. I had quite a busy month this month. Most meetings were via Zoom or Teams. So we've had a extremely busy month at the moment. First of all, I'd just like to mention the Rural Women's Network Group. They had their AGM, and they're a group of young, enthusiastic women who have engaged and working to create a place of self-worth in our rural area and farming community. So I'd really like to give a cheer out to them, because they come together as a good group. They're there to back each other, to put events on. So hopefully we'll see a couple of events in the future from them, and they're the Golden Plains Rural Women's Group. I also had the pleasure of meeting with Her Excellency and her governor and Mr. Anthony Howard, AM and QC. We had a great meeting. They were very interested and concerned about what was happening in the Golden Plains Shire. And it was a short but very productive meeting, and they were very keen to know a lot about our Shire. I've had a few other meetings. We also met with the Country Fire Authority, and also a meeting with Michelle Young, the Deputy Commissioner for Fire Rescue Victoria. With those meetings, it's virtually saying that we have two ends of the Shire, one in the north and the south, and one in the south. And for planning regulations and that sort of thing regarding fire, emergencies, they are now breaking it up into two parts within our Shire. So I think that's a really good move, because people who are up the northern end in the Ballarat area, can have a quicker response time, and the same in the south. And it goes also with the planning regulations when it comes to anything to do with the fire brigade. I also had the Colac Regional Advisory Group meeting. That was our Rural Financial Counselling Group. They have now expanded and have taken over the whole Western district, and also up to the Northern Mallee areas as well. They also incorporate Bendigo and those sort of areas up north. The process has been very smooth. We have councillors out there who support the farming community, and if anyone needs help, they're there for them at all times of the year, whether it's fire, drought. And I've been on this committee now for 12 years, and we really do appreciate the work that they do with our farming residents. They also do a small business forum as well. They have a small business person who works in the region, and especially during COVID times, he's been very proactive in helping small business as well. So if anyone in our Shire does need a helping hand, besides our our staff, there is other avenues out there within the small business community as well. So other than that, I'll keep moving on. Thank you, councillors. So the recommendation before us that council receive and note the delegates report for the 24th of August 2021 to the 27th of September 2021. Do I have a motion? A mover. Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cunningham.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
No worries. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Can't see my hand. Carried unanimously. Item 7.2, P20341 for 115 Shelford, Mount Mercer Road, Shelford, the broiler farm. I will now pass this on to Director Mr. Josipovic. Thank you, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report relates to a planning permit application for a broiler farm at 1115 Shelford, Mount Mercer Road, Shelford. The report was originally presented to the 24th of August 2021 Ordinary Council meeting for a decision. Council did not support the officer's recommendation to issue a notice of decision to issue a permit, however, did not make a final determination on the application. As a final decision was not made at that meeting, the applicant has since lodged an application for review at the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, VCAT, against Council's failure to determine the application within the prescribed time. The matter has now been set down by VCAT for hearing on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th of May 2022. Council is now required to form a position on the application prior to the VCAT proceeding. The report provides background to the application and a summary of the relevant planning considerations. As mentioned, the subject land is situated at 1115 Shelford Mount Mercer Road in Shelford. The land is not affected by any restricted covenants. The site is located in a rural area approximately 12 kilometres north of the Shelford Township. The site has an area of 161.9 hectares and is currently used for agricultural activities such as grazing and cropping. The site is vacant and contains an existing farm shed. Surrounding land is used for agricultural activities such as grazing and cropping. The Lee River is located approximately 600 metres east of the subject land. The application proposes the use and development of the land for a broiler farm with a capacity of 400,000 birds. The proposal consists of 8 chicken sheds and includes a machinery and staff amenities building, 12 feed silos, 4 LPG tanks, 8 water tanks, access road construction and a new dam. The external materials of the broiler sheds will consist of pale green colour bond walls and custom wall roofing in zinculum finish. Each shed will be 182 metres long and 22 metres wide with a height of 4.3 metres to the ridgeline. Access to Shelford Mount Mercer Road is via an existing vehicle crossing on the southern boundary of the land. A new internal access road will be constructed to the sheds. Trucks will be required to service the farm, including for the delivery and collection of birds, litter delivery and removal and feed deliveries. It is anticipated that up to approximately 963 trucks per year will be required to service the farm. This equates to about 90 truck visits per week.
Mr. Crane, could you just mute yourself, please?
Delivery and collection of birds, litter delivery and removal and feed deliveries. It is anticipated that up to approximately 900.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Sorry, Mr. Josipovic.
That's fine. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The application has been referred to the council meeting for determination because there are 15 objections to the application. And given the number of submissions and media attention, officers are of the opinion that the application is considered significant to the municipality. The matters raised by objectors include odour, environmental impacts, traffic and roads, noise, visual impact, power and water supply, avian influenza and animal welfare. Councillors have been provided with a full copy of the application and objections for consideration before making a decision. It should be noted a consultation meeting was held on the 21st of June 2021 with the objectors, applicant and council officers, and the meeting did not result in the resolution of any of the objections. The application is considered to satisfy the provisions of the state and local planning policy frameworks, the farming zones, particularly under clause 53.09 broiler farm, as well as the decision guidelines of the planning scheme under clause 65. The application has also been assessed to fully comply with the Victorian Code for broiler farms. The site of the proposed broiler farm is considered to be appropriate as it will facilitate the establishment of an important productive agricultural industry in a manner that is consistent with orderly and proper planning and the protection of the environment. It is therefore recommended the council resolves to form a position of support for planning permit application P20341 for the use and development of the land for the purposes of a broiler farm and associated building and works at 1115 Shelford Mount Mercer Road, Shelford, subject to the conditions attached to this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Is there any questions or items for clarification, councillors? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question through you to Director Josipovic, if possible. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Director, can I just inquire, there are currently any infringement notices in place regarding the property at 1115 Shelford Mount Mercer Road, please?
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Yes, there are a couple of matters that are to be resolved at that particular property. I need to stress, though, that they're not related to the planning permit application and should not be in any way construed as impacting the planning permit application. However, there was a crossover built at the northern, towards the northern boundary of the property, and that resulted in removal of some native vegetation, grasses, and it was constructed without a road opening permit under our local law. The owner of the land was issued a penalty infringement notice under the planning scheme for the removal of native vegetation and chose to contest that infringement notice at the Magistrates Court. The matter was due to be heard at the court on the 16th of August, but was adjourned to the 12th of October, as the owner's barrister wanted to formulate a plea whereby the crossover could be kept. A second notice to comply under the local law number 2 was issued again with the related to the construction of the crossover, given that there was no permit issued under the local law and opening in a road reserve. As it currently stands, officers are not supportive of the driveway in that location due to safety issues with the location near a crest in the road, and the notice requires the removal of the works by the 1st of October. As an update, we were contacted by the owner's representative today by telephone, advising they will be removing the driveway access and crossover by the end of this week in line with that particular notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Josipovic. Is there any other questions, councillors? Councillor Rowe. You're just on mute. Thank you.
Just want to ask the question to Phil. Could the conditions on this application change now, seeing it's heading to VCAT?
Yes, simple answer is yes. Council can change the conditions, which would go with the submission to VCAT on its position.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Rowe. Any other councillors? Any questions? No. If there's no other questions, we have a presentation from Mr. Jack Cran, the applicant. So I'll pass it on to you. Thank you, Mr. Cran.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to present this evening. I've written to you all as councillors and spoken to most of you to clarify some misconceptions about the proposed farm. It's no longer, in terms of the Golden Plains Food Precinct, it's no longer feasible to locate a modern broiler farm within the precinct. The precinct was established some years ago, but time has passed it by due to the much more stringent biosecurity requirements that now apply to the poultry industry. A separation distance of 5 kilometres between farms in different ownerships is now required. As shown in my letter, it is not feasible to locate the proposed farm within the precinct. Chirosi Foods, the poultry processor, opposes their farms being located in the precinct. With respect to water supply, under average conditions, sufficient water can be obtained from surface flows. As a fallback, we've obtained a bore licence from Southern Rural Water, who are the responsible authority for groundwater allocation. A copy of that licence has been provided to one of the councillors and also to the planning staff. Southern Rural Water are satisfied with the proposal, otherwise they wouldn't have granted the bore licence. The matter is not one for council to decide on, it's one for Southern Rural Water. The risk relating to adequate water supply rests with the applicant, not with the council or the community, and therefore is not a legitimate planning concern. In the highly unlikely event of lack of water supply, the farmer will simply reduce the number of birds on the farm temporarily. Power supply, an off-grid solar system or a new 3-phase line extension from Jeringhap will supply power. Supply will not be drawn from the current network, so there will be no detriment to existing power users. Power supply is not a legitimate planning issue. Any generators required by the farm will be housed within the enclosed machinery shed and will not be audible beyond the property boundaries. Contaminated runoff. In my letter, I explained how the sheds are cleaned and sanitised. This does not generate free-flowing water. If it did, even if it did, the concrete floors and walkfalls prevent any water from escaping the sheds. All surface runoff is collected in the tanks in the dam, and this water must not be contaminated and is used for birds drinking water. The dam will rarely overflow because the water is being consumed by the farm. The water quality and environmental values of Blue River which is located about 1,500 metres to the east of the sheds, are not at risk. Environmental performance monitoring. Farm monitoring will consist of an annual council compliance check, independent audits every 2 years for EMP compliance, and twice yearly RSPCA audits for compliance with the RSPCA farming standard. Broiler code separation distance. Separation distances are used to protect sensitive uses from impacts of odour if something goes wrong on the farm. The broiler code defines sensitive uses as where people are regularly in attendance, such as dwellings. Agricultural activities are not a sensitive use in the context of the broiler code. It is uncommon for modern tunnel ventilated farms to have problems that generate odour. The separation distances do not impose any prohibitions or impediments on use of neighbouring land. In this instance, the neighbouring property to the north, the owner has objected and continued to be used for agriculture as it is now. The proposal is in complete compliance with the broiler code and the planning scheme as shown in the officer's report. Our client is an experienced broiler farmer and proposes to relocate all his operations from Mount Cottrell to Shelford. He will reside locally and he is proposing a multi-million dollar investment. The farm will have 2 full-time and several part-time and casual staff and will also generate indirect jobs. There will be substantial local expenditure on trade, services and consumables. In conclusion, the land is an excellent site for a broiler farm in a farming area with a very low density of dwellings. The proposal will generate a net community benefit. It is respectfully requested Council support the application. Thank you for the opportunity to present and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cran. Is there any questions, councillors? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. Mr. Cran, if I can call you Jack, if that's okay.
That's fine, Councillor Cunningham.
I've got a few questions, so please appreciate where I'm coming from. The Victorian Code for the Broiler Farm 2009, in that it actually recognises that broiler farm industries can be a source of odour, dust, noise, water, waste, litter and other discharges into the environment. Would this be correct?
If they're not properly managed, correct.
Okay. Does the applicant have any future thoughts or intentions or plans to expand from the current location, if it was approved, to a larger one at the same location, e.g. more sheds?
Not on this particular site, but he does own another property or is in the process of purchasing another property to the south upon which he intends to locate the farm.
Okay. So if that's no, why doesn't the applicant then insist on this? Why does the applicant insist on establishing a B-class operation instead of doing the right thing by neighbouring landowners and contain the operation within its own boundaries with a Class A broiler farm application?
Well, I've already explained the situation with respect to separation distances. There is no impact on the property to the north in terms of prohibitions or restrictions on what that land could be used for. He is keeping his options open for the opportunity down the track for the potential for a further farm on the property that he owns directly to the south.
Has the applicant attempted to directly liaise and offer its neighbours any type of compromise in relation to the operation of the broiler farm and their concerns, i.e. road maintenance, repairs due to the large increase in truck movements will create a reduction in operation times, or paying for double glazed windows for nearby residents who may be affected by noise and odour, as the wind farm have done for local neighbours that were affected by their operation?
No, Councillor Cunningham, he has not. Given that the farm completely complies with the code particularly in relation to the separation distances, which are considered to be appropriate to mitigate any problems that may arise from the farm. There is no need for such mitigation measures to be offered to the community.
It would be a kind gesture to the community, though, wouldn't it, if he did?
He has been talking to the CFA with respect to putting water tanks on the corner of his property, the northwest corner of the property, for firefighting purposes, and that was actually the part of the reason why he did, unbeknownst to him, that he needed a planning permit or a road opening permit. He did the crossing works in that very northwestern corner with the intent of providing water tanks for CFA use.
Okay.
But that's the only gesture.
Thank you. Has the applicant, Rakewood Livestock Farms, ever lived, owned a business or worked in the Rakewood Shelford area prior to this proposal?
No.
Okay. Will the proposed boiler farm have a similar ventilation system to the one used at the Mount Cottrell location?
It will be an upgraded tunnel ventilation system. The Mount Cottrell farm is somewhat older, but this will be using the most modern technology available.
Okay, because I have spoken to a resident that lived 1.6k from the Mount Cottrell location, and he said he smelt the odour most days in the air. He's now located to Shelford area to sort of hopefully get away from that, which now he finds he could be living next door to. So I suppose the concern is the current location is known as Windy Plains, hence the building of 65 wind farms in that area. How can you guarantee local residents will not have to deal with a constant smell odour in the air every day?
Okay, for a start off, there's a misconception that strong winds create odour problems. It's actually the opposite. Strong winds disperse odour. So therefore, concerns about strong winds causing long-term odour problems are unfounded. Again, I refer back to the state broiler code, which states that a separation distance of 686 metres is sufficient to mitigate against those occasions when there are problems. There is a boundary buffer distance of 100 metres on all broiler farms, and that's to deal with routine emissions. So we don't believe that that there are going to be ongoing problems from the broiler farm at this site. And your reference to the Mount Cottrell or the person living in the vicinity of the Mount Cottrell farm, there is no record either with the EPA or council of any complaints with respect to odour about that farm.
Okay. Would the applicant think it's fair to use someone else's land for their business, for example, the buffer zone, and taken away any rights the neighbouring landholder has over their own land?
Well, I've already addressed...
Point of order.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. We'll move on from that question because it has already been answered, Councillor.
Right, thank you, Mr. Cran, for answering my many questions, and I hope you understand that such a development as this does cause a lot of questions within the community.
Point of order.
What's your point of order, Councillor Sharkey?
So this is a time for questions, not personal statements.
Sorry, Councillor Sharkey, I was only just thanking Jack Cran for his time and answering the questions and attending tonight's meeting. Good manners.
Point taken. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any other questions, councillors? If there's not, well, thank you, Mr. Cran, for presenting tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity, councillors.
Thank you. So, councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a motion? Do I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Getsom. Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll try and cover off as many items about this application as I can. The issue of whether this would be better in the food precinct has been raised in previous discussions. The farm zone at this site is exactly the same as the farm zone in the food precinct area. The application should be judged on if it meets the planning scheme requirements for the farm zone. Class B broiler farms can impose buffer distances onto neighbouring properties. This is a rule that comes from state level. The rationale behind this allowance is to encourage economic and employment growth as well as provide food production. A Class A broiler farm would be more acceptable to the objectors and perhaps something that can be raised as a compromise at the scheduled VCAT hearing. But Class B are allowed, and we must judge if it complies with the Class B rules. The power used will not come from the same supply as that which services the local community. Water is proposed to come from roof catchments and a groundwater bore. The EPA and CCMA have not raised concerns with this. Southern Rural Water have issued a licence to construct a bore, and it's a two-part process. The next step is to apply for the water rights from it. Southern Rural Water are the authorising authority with bores, and their decision to grant includes consideration of impacts on groundwater tables. Odour was raised by objectors as a concern. Permit condition 25 states that if the responsible authority determines the amenity of neighbours is adversely affected, the permit holder must take action to prevent those emissions, such as reducing stock density, immediate removal of litter, and any other actions reasonably required to rectify the emission of the offensive odour. The buffer distances provided under the broiler code factor in odour and dust. Proper adherence to the regular cleanouts and disposal of manure and mortalities under the Environmental Management Plan will aid in reducing odour. Objectors have concerns regarding the possible contamination of the unnamed watercourse which flows through the site to neighbouring properties. Conditions 18 through 24 on the permit require that all stormwater not associated with the broiler farm be diverted away from the broiler farm and discharged to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. No polluted or sediment-laden runoff is to be directed into the drains or watercourses. Objectors worry that noise from power generators will have an effect on amenity. Condition 28 states that the broiler farm must be designed and operated to ensure that noise emissions comply with the EPA guideline, noise from industry in regional Victoria. I've based my decision on how this application meets the planning scheme requirements. I take the objectors' concerns very seriously, but for every issue raised, there seem to be conditions imposed or regulations to be followed that mitigate the effects. The broiler code, the EPA, CCMA, RSPCA, Southern Rural Water, and Council all have regulations the proposed broiler farm will need to follow to ensure compliance and continuation of the operation. If compliance is noticed to be slipping, complaint-based or reactionary inspections can be asked for. We are deciding on whether to send Council with a position of support or non-support to VCAT on this matter. That said, when deciding on these types of applications, it's valid to consider, would this get through if it went to VCAT? Past decisions on similar cases at VCAT indicate it would. The officer recommendation supports that it would. I commend councillors for representing the many objectors and doing a deep dive into this application. The planning scheme in this instance is our guide, and sometimes we'll be obliged to make decisions that are not popular. I approve our officers taking a position of support for this application to the scheduled VCAT hearing. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Can you hear me, Madam Mayor?
Yes, quite clearly.
Yes, I would like to. This has been a very lengthy involvement, and I've spent a lot of time on it. But now, after ascertaining quite a few different things from Mr. Cran, I'd like to support the officer's application and put forward. I did have 2 queries, which was water and odour. With the water, I've been informed that they will catch 36 to 38 megalitres of water per year, which will be stored. They only require 26 megalitres of water to run the operation. If need be, they can use a bore, which there was no any sign of showing us where there was a bore permit issued. I pursued that and I have a copy of that bore. I'm happy with that now from Great Southern Rural Water. With the odour, the boiler farm will have up-to-date modern technologies fans, which are run on variable speeds. 1 or 2 will run at night time for the control the airflow. If it's hot in the day, they will be used by water, which will act as a cooling system. The separation distance, as been stated already, is 686 metres. The closest building is 750 metres away. I believe the nearest landholder has not objected. He did request that some trees be planted on the northern side, which are already in the ground as we speak. And look, I think most of the objectors do not live within 10 kilometres of the site. So I think this matter, and also to prevent the ratepayers paying any extra money by going to VCAT, I think I'm happy to support this, that we accept the application. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As an individual councillor, I'm reflecting the applicable community sensitivity and sentiment regarding the planning application. And having met with many of the residents that do live nearby and the other objectors that will be affected by this proposed development at the actual site, allow me to fully understand their concerns. I'd also like to particularly thank Councillor Whitfield and Gavin Gamble for the additional amount of hours and time and research they have put into this. The subject site is rich with flora and fauna, which will undoubtedly dissipate once construction is carried out on this site. There are a number of protected species in the area, including the growling grass frog, stony legless lizard, and the platypuses that live at the Lee River. Another concern is regards to water sustainability. One of the piggeries in the area has already installed a desal plant. Water harvesting will stop the natural flow of water into neighbouring dams. In flood years, wastewater will flow and possibly pollute the neighbouring dams. The water table will be lowered in drought years, as has already been seen with the piggeries that are already drawing large quality and quantity of water from the bores. The proposed development will adversely impact the amenity of this area, which already has 64 wind towers and 3 piggeries in place. I'd also like to refer to the Golden Plains Planning Scheme, item 3.11, clause 15, environment. It states, Council will assist the protection and restoration of any land, water quality, and the conservation of natural ecosystems, resources, energy, and cultural heritage. Planning officers review and judge planning applications against whether or not the application is compliant with the planning schemes and policies. However, as councillors, we are elected to represent our residents and make judgments based on community expectations, neighbouring land uses, and keeping in with the inherent character and amenity of the applicable area within our shire. In closing, I ask my fellow councillors to consider supporting my recommendation not to approve the planning application. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Sorry, the old mute button. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to apologise to all concerned about a number of issues regarding this application. I apologise for a failure of process to make a notice of decision at our last council meeting, main meeting. I also apologise for my erroneous belief that the Local Government Act provided us with a certain amount of discretion in terms of overarching principles. However, the decision on this matter is made under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 and the Victorian Broiler Code within it. I also apologise to the objectors and concerned citizens for not being able to maintain a legitimate objection that would stand up in VCAT where the applicant has already lodged for a hearing. I tried very hard and had planners looking for comparative VCAT cases and also reading through multiple rulings concerning broiler farms. And I contacted some experts too on some of the matters. I'm concerned about the drying up of our landscape and the parlous state of our river systems. Even in a year of average rainfall, Native Hut Creek has not flowed. The River Moorabool documents the pressure. Aquifers and groundwater that supply the base flow are under. I'm concerned the applicant will be relying on groundwater from a bore which has been approved by Southern Rural Water. In a year of low rainfall, so 320 millimetres, I've established some rough figures that would worry me about the how much water will be actually needed, and the applicant will be extra reliant on the groundwater, extracting, I believe, 18 to 20 megalitres, which is like a 385,000 litres per week, or 6.5 good-sized pools per week. But Southern Rural Water are the approving authority under the Water Act, and council has no capacity and role in that area, unfortunately, in my opinion. I also have some concerns, they're separate to the issue, about the authority having both playing the role of seller in the market for licenses and also an environmental regulator. My preference is to have such a facility located in the Shire's food precinct between Bangani and Lethbridge, or at least on an articulated supply for these reasons. Due to the topography of the land, I believe the odour from the broiler farm will have greatest impact at lower wind speeds, particularly in the evening when air stratifies and coolest air settles in the nearby Lee Valley, 1.5 kilometres away, a fairly pristine riparian ecological system there. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any relevant case relating directly to offensive odour impacts on riparian zones or similar type topography as a basis of objection, especially given the distance to the river, which is far greater than the buffer zone area, and sensitive uses are not including public spaces, as I understand it. I was hoping there may be a precedent of a successful appeal in this basis, or even a similar case in discussions of issues, but no. In the absence of a precedent circumstance, and given the reasoning surrounding cases and judgments otherwise, I now believe to oppose the application VCAT is most probably certainly likely to fail. Therefore, it's best for us not to post the application given the extra costs. I've read through VCAT judgments and assessments. Thank you to our leading planning expert for helping and supplying these. It should be noted there was also around 300 pages of extra information, environmental management plans, flora surveys, etc., which were supplied with this applicant, but not seen by the public. I know there are some residents are concerned about not having that information, but there was a lot of extra information supplied with the original application. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Pardon me. Councillor Rowe. Oh, Councillor Sharkey, sorry.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge disappointment that we're here at this point here tonight. As a collective group, we should be apologising for the way in which we have let this matter come to end up this way, and we should be apologising to the applicant and the objectors, and ultimately the ratepayers who we are here to serve. We are elected as councillors to make decisions, and those decisions are seldom supported by 100% of the community, and they are hard decisions to be made. Particularly with planning items, we are here we are elected councillors, but we have to appreciate that we are moulded into the planning scheme, and the decisions that we make have to be within that planning scheme. And I would remind members of the community and ask members of the community to be appreciative of us as a collective group of councillors when we have to go through this process. That they're not easy decisions that we have to make. They do go against our internal beliefs sometimes, but when they fit within the scheme, we're forced and hamstrung sometimes to make the decisions that we do, and that's the scheme that we're within. If we don't like that scheme, we have the ability and power to change those things and do things there where we can see fit. So I think it's extremely fair to say that we as a group have learnt a very valuable lesson. I would be absolutely astonished if a councillor would ever come to a council meeting now and object to an item or go against a recommendation without an alternative motion or reasons there. We have one councillor here speaking against it tonight. I don't believe that there is any
point of order, Madam Mayor.
What's your point, Councillor?
Was Councillor Sharkey giving us a lecture on how we run council meetings, or is he going to speak about the application?
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. If you could just keep your just keep it to the main motion, please, Mr. Sharkey.
Thank you, as I was, Madam Mayor. So the grounds in which we now, so if we're going to go against this recommendation here tonight and challenge this at VCAP, we have to have grounds and reason for that. I think there's many councillors here that have spoken in favour of the recommendation. I am at a loss for those speaking against the motion where those items are. This item that's here is the exact same report that was here a month ago, and that was presented to us all in the same way. My personal position on this remains as it was last month, and I will be staying with now supporting this recommendation. As a councillor, when these come to our briefing days, I personally, and I think a lot of other councillors would probably agree, that you do alleviate towards the objectors. I personally pick up the objectors' objections and read through all of those, highlight some areas of concern, and then see if that fits within the scheme. Many planning items that come to us are black and white, and some pose some grey area, and we have the opportunity when it is a little bit grey sometimes to make amendments. We also must appreciate that if we sometimes head off to VCAP, we do, as was outlined earlier, run the risk of the applicant further imposing conditions and further weakening the conditions on an application, and in turn further infuriating some of the residents that are there. It is also important to appreciate that we as a council don't allow houses to be built in these areas for these reasons. We've got good separation issues there, as was outlined earlier, up to those that are affected the most. The nearest neighbour and the nearest house have not objected to it. So the ones that I would have thought, if they were some serious concerns there, they would have objected to it. So I will be taking the advice, the expert advice that has been given to us from Southern Rural Water, the boiler code. I think it's worth noting that the not so much the applicant or Mr. Krantz there that is representing the applicant has helped write the boiler code. So he has been doing this for 40 years. He helped write the boiler code 20 years ago. He has successfully, I think his strike rate is 100% of putting these in. That's not because he knows the system well. That's because the applications that he picks up are fair and warranted and are good. So this is a good investment in our area. This is something that we should be proud of, a $6 million investment into the area. And we can proudly recognise that Golden Plains Shire produces just over 20% of all the eggs in the state of Victoria. So I will remain supportive of this, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. As a farmer and councillor, I support new opportunities in agriculture within the Golden Plains Shire. Just for the record, with agriculture in Golden Plains Shire, the economic output in 2021 was $257 million. The agricultural industry in Golden Plains Shire employed 811 people in 2021. Golden Plains Shire produces 21% of Victoria's eggs, 11% of poultry, and 5% of Victorian pigs. Each week, that equates to around 4 million eggs, 600,000 chickens, 1,000 pigs, and 28,000 litres of goat milk is produced in our shire. This is only a small snippet of what farmers produce in the Golden Plains Shire. We need to include the prime lambs, wool, cereal crops, legume crops, wine, beef, and much, much more. Okay, now I will move on to the application at hand. P2034-1, 1,115 Shelford Mount Mercer Road for a broiler farm. There is a Victorian code for broiler farms, 2009 plus 2008 amendments. And where the development proposal adopts all the approved measures for a standard, the application is deemed to comply with a standard. The application satisfies the provisions of the state and local planning policy frameworks, the farming zone, clause 53.09 for a broiler farm, and the decision guidelines of the planning scheme, clause 65. It is an important and productive agricultural industry and will generate jobs for our shire. Driving throughout our shire, there are many similar developments of this kind and many in our neighbouring councils. Comments were made that the proposed broiler farm should be located within the food production precinct. This is not feasible due to the biosecurity requirements of the poultry processor, Turusi Foods, and the lack of suitable and available properties in the precinct. Biosecurity is a prime focus in the poultry industry. Turusi Foods policy requires new broiler farmers to be established at least 5 kilometres from any other poultry farm which is in a different ownership. This is not possible to achieve within the precinct. The client of the applicant has found a large property of 1,200 acres in the farming zone where dwelling densities are low to build this broiler farm. The applicant, Jack Cran, has had extensive experience in supporting applications that fully meet the broiler code and comply with the planning scheme requirements. Furthermore, this applicant has been involved heavily in developing the Victorian code for broiler farms, which we have at the moment. His success rate is 100%. All his applications in the past have had a permit issued by council or by order of VCAT. At the last council meeting, we approved on the same land a recycling facility to complement this broiler farm and supply wood shavings for this operation. It was very disappointing that this application didn't get supported better by councillors last month, and for the Mayor and Deputy Mayor not to make any comment or ask the applicant any questions, both knowing that they would vote against the proposal. Furthermore, there shouldn't be any excuses from councillors that they didn't have time to read all the background information. Councillors must read all relative information, otherwise you can't make decisions appropriately. And if that is the actual case last month, this application should have been deferred for a month. I hope tonight councils will support the planning permit application P20 34-1 for the use and development of this broiler farm, which is very important to the Golden Plains Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham, you can only speak once to the motion. I'm sorry.
I had a question for Councillor Sharkey with his comments, if that's possible.
No, you can't
No,
do
he's
that.
not.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, everyone has spoken. I will now ask the mover if he would like to close the debate. Thank you, Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Good discussion points by all councillors throughout that debate. Essentially, the wrap up of this is that this gets decided under the Planning Act and the planning scheme. Looking at the permit and the conditions applied on it, there are so many factors that the applicant has to comply with along the way for the business to operate properly. Look, I personally think it would be worth some extra compliance inspections at the scheduled VCAT hearing. Perhaps that's something that could be asked for. You know, we've got over 28, 30 conditions from our planning officers. Then there's the broiler code and all the EPA. There's a lot to monitor, so it would be worth having some extra compliance checks done. Councillor Gamble mentioned it in his comments. It was very hard to find reasons for refusal in this case, reasons that are defendable at VCAT, and I know councillors look high and low for them. I think this subject's been very well covered. I'll wrap it up there, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Okay, we've had a long, hard debate this evening, so I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors.
Call for a division, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Sharkey would like a division. So all those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillor Whitfield, Councillor Getson, Councillor Gamble, Councillor Sharkey, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Kirby, and those against, Councillor Cunningham. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Just regarding tonight's passing of it, I think it has been it's been a very interesting curb that the councillors have taken this evening and last month, and we hope that we have been supporting the residents, and we just like to know that as was spoken about the planning permits and what goes ahead in the planning scheme, that we have all taken this on board. So thank you, everyone. Item 7.3, the annual report. Pass this on to our CEO, Mr. Braslis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, I'm pleased to present tonight the annual report. As we all know, each year councils across the state are required to present an annual report to government, including its financial and performance statements. The last 12 months has been an incredible journey for the organization. Throughout COVID, the operations and services have continued to all our residents, and the capital works program has been delivered. I'm really pleased to look back on the year in reflection, to identify that we've had one of our most significant capital works programs ever, that we've been able to secure extremely large amounts of external funding throughout the past 12 months. And most importantly, we ended the year on a strong financial account with an operating surplus of $1.8 million stronger than we had anticipated. I'm very pleased to also advise that last night we did receive the financial and performance statements as signed off by Vago, and those will be included in the annual report as uploaded to our council website tomorrow morning. Overall, it's been a tremendous year. Pleasing to see that we were able to do what we did throughout the COVID environment, and I table this report for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Braslis. Is there any questions of Mr. Braslis, councillors, or areas of clarification? No, I think everyone's extremely happy then. Okay, so do we have a mover to the motion? Councillor Cunningham? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gamble? Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to support the officer's recommendation to receive the Golden Plains Shire annual report for 2020-21. As noted, the annual report shares a story of council's major highlights and achievements. In the report, there is acknowledgement of some very major capital works completed by council through 2021. These significant projects included Victoria Park lighting, Inverleigh netball courts and lighting, Golden Plains Youth Hub. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the funding grants secured for future capital works that will make a difference in the communities within the Shire. All councillors, the CEO and all council officers involved should be congratulated in obtaining these grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to speak briefly about the encountering this annual report. I appreciate the photos to start with. It's a very impressive looking document. The cover photo features a caring, love and learning situation, which is to be recommended. And inside we have the sunset over Bunjils Lookout, which is another great photo. Along in the snapshot of council, there's a 20-year estimate of a growth rate of 74% over 20 years by my figures. And the vision, mission and value statements, community partnerships and community involvements in decision making are big features in this annual report. It's also a very inclusive document, and the values also reflecting the council and our values as councillors to build the trust and confidence of the community. There's a listing of 27 campaigns on page 23 that show community engagement, and also the figures of things like how many over 70 community services that the council provides is also quite remarkable, and not everybody's aware of that. I was also impressed with the highlights and achievements of rising to the challenge of COVID-19, keeping things running in difficult circumstances quite often, especially with the variable amounts and nature and timelines of lockdowns. It's been very difficult at times. Other highlights are the Reconciliation Action Plan with respect for First Australians, traditional custodian. For me, I went in the traditional custodian burn and a walk in the memorial with Barry Gilson. There's also mentioned the Clone Emergency Declaration, and also our engagement with the Coffee with Councillors and other engagements we've had have all been reflected in the annual report too. With the just a couple more highlights for this: the signing up to the Victorian Energy Collaboration by our Shire, and the council plan development itself was a very worthwhile and enlightening process. Getting out with the public too to get the feedback we needed to help with it anyway. Yep. Completion of the Civic Centre and the inclusion of the council plan are all highlights of the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, firstly, the report itself is a very professional, attractive piece of work, showing all councils done in the 2021 period, and it's the completion of the previous council plan. Some achievements in the healthy and connected community theme are that there was access to a mobile breast screening van, the Stay Independent Smart Devices program, where 20 iPads were purchased to use in social support programs. The 3 Trails project continues to progress. The online youth programs provided during the COVID lockdowns. The Active Ageing and Inclusion Plan was created and adopted. The Community Planning Program Action Plan has been adopted. Achievements under the Enhancing Local Economy theme. A business mentoring service was introduced. Funding for the expansion of the Bannockburn Industrial Estate was sourced. The establishment of the digital hub at the Smythesdale Well, and continuing to run the farmers market when not in lockdown. Achievements under maintaining our natural and built environments. Township maintenance was boosted with the Working for Vic program. The bridge replacement program continues. The new asset management system has been incorporated. The Bannockburn growth plan has been approved. The Turtle Bend upgrade's almost complete. The Inverleigh Sporting Complex change room upgrade is underway. Achievements under good governance and leadership. Councillor engagement has increased. The community consultation has increased. The 2021 and 25 council plan has been created and adopted, and many policies have been updated or initiated under the Local Government Act 2020, which I know has been a mountain of work for the organisation. There are many more achievements outlined in this annual report for those interested in viewing it, but of course there are areas to work on as well. The performance statement part of the report in this annual report indicates that for the 2021 year, there will be a 29.4% workforce turnover. There are circumstances that impact this figure, such as the withdrawal from the long daycare service and employment opportunities at other councils. On page 61 of the report, it breaks down those figures to 19% based on voluntary resignations and retirements. Similar councils are at 15.09%. There is also the Work for Vic program, which affected this rate further. Now, higher staff turnover impacts on capability and budget, and we do continue to lose good staff to other shires. Golden Plains is a great place to work, and we do need to improve our retention. Ideally, we would be a destination employer, not a training ground for other shires. I support that we receive the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think a lot of points have been covered here tonight. This is one of those documents where we largely sit here at council meetings speaking about forward planning and strategic documents and documents that underpin other ones and overarching documents, and we spend so much time looking into the future with our 5-year, 3-year, 10-year plans and strategic planning. But this this annual report is a fantastic document to sort of stop, pause and reflect. So you are able to look backwards, have a look back on the year. You're able to acknowledge all of the great achievements that challenge, great achievements that council achieve, and then also the challenges that are presented to us. I think I said last year on the annual report, you would at this time of the year think that you'd be looking back, reflecting upon a COVID ridden year, and give a lot of excuses for not achieving great things, but I think we've achieved a lot of great things. This is a very meaty document, and I do suspect that there will be many questions from residents diving into this document, and this is the document that residents can refer to. I'd also highly recommend councillors here and residents to pick up an annual report from other shires and councils around Victoria and just compare the documents, have a look how they're presented, how they're what we're achieving. So full credit to everyone as we press pause here and reflect on this document. Congratulations to all those involved. There is further work to be done, and look forward to the oncoming year, but fantastic document. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. A lot's been said. I'd like to be very brief. I'd just like to commend the entire organisation, including the staff and councillors, on the great achievements in the last 12 months under the restrictions of COVID. And furthermore, I just want to touch base to all this couldn't happen without the funding grants. So look, to those, I thank them, the funding bodies, for the funds or the grants that come towards us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Cunningham to end the debate. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I'm taking the headphones off. I apologise. Look, I don't have anything else to add to that. I think the councillors that spoke after me, Councillor Rowe and Sharkey and Whitfield, all made the points that I was going to. So no, that's about it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Carried unanimously. And I've just on a personal note would also like to thank the staff, the CEO, all the government bodies, funding bodies, state, federal, any of the other, the wind farms who have put money into the 3 Trails project, supporting Teesdale with the Teesdale, getting the Teesdale reserve up and going down there. So we've had a bridge, we've had different equipment and that place down there. So it's been very interesting. But most of all, We did have till the 30th of November to have this annual support submitted to the government, and we've delivered on time. So congratulations to Eric, Pip and the staff. Thank you. Item 7.4, in principle performance statement and in principle financial statements for the year ended the 30th of June 2021. Thank you, Pip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So following on from the previous agenda item on the annual report, Section 98 of the Local Government Act 2020 does also require Council to prepare audited financial statements and performance statements. And as part of this, the Victorian Auditor General certifies, based on under Part 3 of the Audit Act 1994, whether these statements are clear. And as it was mentioned in the previous report, it was pleasing to receive those last night to get a clear audit report from Vago. As I say, the next steps will be under Section 100 of the Local Government Act 2020. The annual report now gets submitted to the Minister by the 30th of September. And as mentioned, it has been extended to the 30th of November, but we're happy to advise we will be able to still submit it by the 30th of September. As part of approving the financial statements, the management letter from our external auditors also considers a number of issues that have been highlighted and improvement opportunities. And it's really pleasing to note that all prior period issues have been resolved and has been noticed and acknowledged by our external auditors. These included the reduction of our long outstanding rate debtors due to the significant work being undertaken by our Working for Victorian employee in proactively contacting customers to discuss options to pay off outstanding rates debt. And we've also now created and established a good basis in our landfill provision to fund the costs associated with restoring our landfill sites. There is one item that remains partially resolved, which relates to the recording of our infrastructure, property and plant and equipment. But it is also pleasing to note that the investment in an asset management system, that the work that's been undertaken will continue to be completed in the 21-22 year. So on this note, I'll just finalise saying that the Council's financial management processes are in accordance with the Australian accounting standards and other mandatory professional reporting requirements. And the final audit process considers financial management process, internal controls, accounting policies and financial sustainability via the use of the ongoing concern basis of accounting. And as Vago's provided their clear audit, we've provided reasonable assurance our financial report is free of any material misstatement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director. Is there any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, I will then ask, do we have a mover to the motion? Councillor Cunningham, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Getson. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you,
Madam Mayor. Following on from Director O'Sullivan, it does need to be acknowledged, I think, the work the applicable council team has put in regarding the work and time that's been put in the area of following up on outstanding debtors. I think there's been a really positive work being done there. And it is also noted as a positive move to have the finance and asset management team working together and improving and reviewing the assets management system register. I think that's going to be a big plus as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'd just like to endorse the words of Councillor Cunningham there, Madam Mayor, and congratulations to the staff on an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, there are some interesting things I picked out of these statements. The first one in the performance statement was that the average rates have just decreased by $45 across the Shire, and the expenditure per rateable property from council has increased by a similar amount. So this would be the beneficial result of population growth in the Shire, allowing a greater spread of the rate burden and increased spending on infrastructure. It's also good to see a small reduction in our indebtedness from 53.6 down to 51.3%. And our loans and borrowings have also decreased from 58.9 to 53.6%. As Director O'Sullivan mentioned, the Audit and Risk had identified asset management as an issue, and this is being addressed by the new management system aesthetic that's being implemented, and the report says it's considered partially resolved as the capture of data is still ongoing. Another issue coming from those statements identified by the Audit and Risk considered resolved was the rehabilitation works for the Rokewood and Teesdale tips, which has a fund set up to cover the costs, but it's notable that we're still contributing to those funds over the next few years. And it's also worth noting that the MAV Work Care scheme that we're part of has ceased, and there are as yet unknown costs associated with the wind up of that scheme that we will have to cover. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Cunningham to sum up if you'd like to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing else to sum up there. I think Councillor Whitfield did a very good job there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.5, Finance Quarter 4 Update. I'll pass this on to Director O'Sullivan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the fourth and final quarter financial update for 2021. And as at 30th of June 2021, the operating result for the period was $9.1 million in surplus compared to the original budget of $6.1 million and a revised budget of 9.1. This was just a slight unfavourable variance of 62,000 against the revised budget. And mainly negatively impacted due to a building revaluation that is required every 4 years. And as part of this revaluation, it was identified a number of buildings that were treated as council-owned buildings were actually identified not to be council-owned. And as a result, we needed to write off $867,000. I will confirm this is a non-cash item, but it does impact on our profit. But it will reduce our depreciation going forward. The other negative impact was around some of the lower capital grants received were slightly less than what we'd anticipated, just around the timing of when they were to be received. But on the flip side, there was a number of additional income and lower operating expenditures, which included, we had around $350,000 in higher rates and charges due to the customer growth or the ratepayer growth, residential growth, beg your pardon. We also had some operating grants carried forward from 2019-20. We also had additional revenue through gifted assets, which was $675,000. And then from a operating expenditure reduction, we had contracts and materials slightly less by 0.9 million. Our employee costs were $1.1 million less, mainly due to the vacant positions that we've managed through this year, which are currently being filled. Also, just to note, was the waste management account ended up in a much more favourable position than what we'd expected. And as a result, that will be carried across into our landfill reserve, as mentioned in the previous agenda item. The main reasons for this was in relation to the state government landfill levy that was budgeted to commence from 1 January 2021, but was actually deferred for 6 months due to the resourcing constraints and the impact on COVID. In addition, we also had some savings in both the waste education and street sweeper costs. And we also did receive some additional revenue relating to the Rokewood transfer station. And as mentioned, this will go straight into the dedicated waste management reserve. Once we take away all of our one-off items or one-off capital revenue, our underlying result came in with a very small deficit of 78,000 compared to the budget deficit of 1.9, and therefore was $1.78 million favourable to the budget. I will just also note on the capital projects that we delivered $14.3 million, and which was just slightly below the original budget. And a number of these projects will roll forward into the 22-23 year due to those projects relating to multiple year type of implementation program. I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Any questions, councillors? No questions. All right. Oh, Councillor Gamble, last second.
Thank you. One item mentioned is major facilities upgrade, and I was just wondering what those facilities, what that actually entails.
In relation to the
delivery of projects.
Yeah, so a number of the upgrades relates to the upgrading of the community facilities, public toilets, general upkeep of some of our community sporting facilities as well. So they all relate to those major facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions, councillors? Okay, if not, thank you. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think it was a very good report and update provided by Director O'Sullivan. Once again, there were many positives included in the report, especially in the areas of the many projects and budgets coming in under projected project costs, which is great. This allows for a significant amount being transferred into the consolidated revenue to assist the funding in the 2021-22 budget. So, yeah, I'm comfortable that at this point that the council notes the contents of the Q4 financial report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Rowe.
Yes, thanks very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, this is part of the financial management of the council's operations. Some in-house procedures that have to be implemented under the Act. It compares the actual revenue and expenditure at the time to what was budgeted revenue and expenditure for the financial year. This is the last quarter results for the 2021 financial year. As you can see, and you've heard from Pip, it's been a fairly busy time this last quarter, especially with the road widening and bridge replacements and etc. It's good to see on there the completion of the water supply to the reserve at Maud. As councillors may not know, some will know, council's been carting water up there around about 10-12 loads a year to that reserve to flush toilets and for the washing. So there'll be no more carting water for the toilets and washing, because this site is well used by many, especially the campers and the caravanners that travel through the Shire, especially discovering the old gold rush town there at Stiglitz. So this is a great asset, great outcome. So yeah, just a no-brainer in my book. So yeah, I'd just like to thank the council really for all what they've done in this last quarter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, a couple of good points already covered by others in this discussion. 349K from higher than expected customer growth is a good thing. I note that the current savings of 1.1 mil through employees taking less leave than expected and the vacant staff positions. There would need to be strategies in place for when staff do take leave. We wouldn't want them all to take it all at once. There could be some capability impacts there, and also consider the impact of backfilling those positions during leave. I'm aware staff have a long service leave fund in place to cover long service, and more than likely are working on those other areas. Just one I wanted to highlight that a build up of leave could impact us at some point. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against or for the motion? No. If not, I'll ask Councillor Cunningham if you would like to close the debate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing else to add to that. I think it's been covered pretty well by everyone tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Okay, if not, we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.6, submissions to the 2021-22 long-term financial plan. Thank you again, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is just to note that although Golden Plains has traditionally prepared a long-term financial plan, it's now a legislative requirement to prepare one in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020 and for it to be adopted by the 31st of October 2021, following a public consultation process. Submissions from the public were invited via email, hard copy mail, or through Council's Have Your Say webpage. But after the consultation period, no submissions were received, and therefore no consideration of public submissions is required. As a result, the 2021-22 10-year draft financial plan will now be presented at the October Council meeting for final adoption. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions? All right, thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor, I'm not sure who put their hand up first. Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this was placed on exhibition for a 3-week period. No public submissions were received, therefore no consideration of the feedback from the public is required. It is worth remembering, though, that this long-term financial plan is updated annually to reflect the impacts of each annual budget. So what we see now may alter slightly going forward. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Nothing else further to add, Madam Mayor. Councillor Whitfield actually spoke the words that I was going to speak, so that's okay. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to note, in this submissions to the long-term financial plan, we're fulfilling obligations to be open and transparent. Also noting that we welcome public submissions and critiques. They're healthy and important in terms of accountability and transparency and helping to ensure integrity and high standards within the organisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Well said. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Against the motion? For the motion, Councillor Rowe?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Look, just be brief again. Look, I'm looking forward to seeing down the track this long-term financial plan being implemented, and it will shape our future, no doubt, going forward. There's a lot of challenges in there too, because of especially our garbage charge increases due to the new requirements. The customer growth increase. I think it's forecasted at about 4 or 5% from 24-25 years. So yeah, there's going to be, as I said last time, I think too, there's going to be some tough decisions have to be made down the track. But moving forward, yeah, we've got to be financially correct with what we do. So that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for or against? Councillor Sharkey, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It is quite. This is a very meaty document, and it's one that that I think you would suspect that there wouldn't be too many submissions on. It is a fairly deep dive into our affairs going forward. I think it is worth noting, though, that during the consultation process, that a lot of media outlets did pick up or led with articles and highlighted our rubbish charge being as exorbitant as it has been highlighted in here. I did go and read a lot of other councils' annual report. I did note that no other councils really highlighted an actual fixed figure with that. I think there's probably a little bit of refining work that we could do with that figure. I'm not convinced that those figures are a true reflection for every resident in the Shire with regards to the rubbish charge, but as it was highlighted there earlier as well, this is a snapshot. It is reviewed each and every year, and there's plenty of opportunities for us to change things into the future. But that rubbish charge one's probably one that I think we could do a little bit more work in defining that figure and helping to. I think we've been a lot more open and honest than a lot of councils by putting that figure out there, and we're not afraid to do so. But I think it's fair to say that whilst there was no formal recognition or submission, there was much commentary within the communities, particularly in regards to the rubbish charge. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Against? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield if he'd like to close the debate.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that was the main point I got out of this, that each annual budget is going to slightly alter this long-term financial plan going forward. And highlighted there, Councillor Rowe said that there are some decisions we can make to try and improve it along the way, which is the main thing to take out of that. That's all. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. I'll move for a recess to take a break for 10 minutes if I have a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor Rowe, seconded Councillor Cunningham. Would you like to put a time limit on it, councillors? 5 or 10 minutes?
10 minutes, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. All in favour? Carried. I will now move you all into the waiting room. I have the ability to do this as host of the meeting. The live stream will continue to run and the slide attached will be shown on YouTube. When you're ready to recommence, I will admit you all back into the live streamed meeting and we will commence the meeting immediately. So it is now 7:56, so we will resume back at, what's that? 6 minutes past. 6 minutes past 8. Thank you, councillors.
So just a reminder that live stream's still running.
Thank you, Pip. And Councillor Rowe is still making himself a cup of tea.
You're right to go.
Okay. Thanks, councillors. Good stretch of the legs. Item 7.7, Arts, Culture and Heritage Strategy, 2022 to 2026, the exhibition. I'll pass this on to Acting Director of Community Services, Mr. Stephen Sagona. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. Well, the draft Golden Plains Arts, Culture and Heritage Strategy for 2022 to 26 provides a framework for a more coordinated approach between council and the community and its cultural partners with respect to the advancement of arts, culture and heritage in the Shire. The draft's been developed following quite a substantial community consultation process. And the draft strategy focuses on 4 key priority areas, those being access and participation in and to the arts, celebrating and sharing our history and heritage, activating our really important public places and spaces. And it also talks about economic opportunities through the development of a creative economy. So the recommendation now is that the draft Arts, Culture and Heritage Strategy be exhibited for a period of time before coming back to Council for adoption in November.
Thank you, Mr. Sagona. Any questions, councillors? No questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Sagona. We have a recommendation in front of us, councillors. So do I have a mover to the motion? Councillor Gamble. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to note, it's a 16-page draft document for exhibition. There was, as noted, extensive consultation. I really like the strategic directions or objectives that it outlines: opportunity, celebration, including like for First Nations people, and the history of diverse backgrounds feeding into our Shire. Also the activating of spaces and resources, and the investing in communities, and also how in regards to tourism and economic spin-offs. I'd like to acknowledge that arts and culture have an extremely important role in mental well-being for most people, for individuals' resilience, for a community's well-being. As both a blessing and a curse, we are the thinking animals. Our awareness of mortality, our understanding of fragility and transience means we have to invest and create meaning in a state of, in our state of being. It's what it is to be fully human. This strategy has a strong emphasis on participation, encouragement, and inclusion. Also, I note the cultural aspirations on page 7 are very sound. It's an excellent draft. Congratulations and well done to the authors, primarily Sarah Jones, and all those who completed surveys and participated in the workshops that fed into informed its content. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and also I'd just like to acknowledge the words there by Councillor Gamble, very well put. Just like to acknowledge the work once again by all council officers in preparing the draft document to go out for public exhibition and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is a fantastic document. On a personal level, I think we as a council the last few years have, particularly with the arts trail and that having dropped off, the arts community regrouped and tried to get that trail going, and have been extremely challenged by the last 2 years. So it's fantastic to see some of those people that have strongly advocated for arts to be elevated in the council have been part of this. 35 members of the community have taken part in this. I think that, well, I hope as this goes out that they will have a really good look over this and give any feedback to us as we endorse this going into the future. Again, a well-presented document. And it's an area that you like to see councils having a strong strength in, because it does bring communities together. Arts is from the youth of our shire to the elders of our shire. And I'll just, one page there, page number 10, there's a quote there. I'll just finish on this, which resonated with me, and that is that whether we are artists, employees of council or members of the community, we all have a role. We all want a strong arts, culture and heritage offer, so we can tell the many stories about this place that are yet to be told. That was from one of the reference group members. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? For the motion? No other councillors? Okay, if not, Councillor Gamble, would you like to sum up? Thank you.
I'll leave it as it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Gamble. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. So we just, it'll be very interesting to hear now what feedback we have back from the community in November. So I'll be looking forward to it. Item 7.8, draft Golden Plains Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to 2025. I'll pass this on to Mr. Sigona. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kirby. So Council, as part of the development and adoption of its council plan for the next 4 years, incorporated the requirements of the Municipal Public Health Plan within the same document. So the council plan sets out the overarching framework for the Municipal Public Health Plan. The Public Health and Wellbeing Act then requires council to develop a more detailed 4-year action plan, which we are required to submit to the Department of Health by the 29th of October. So the draft document before you now builds on the 5 themes of the Municipal Public Health Plan in the council plan, and they are around improved mental wellbeing, increasing active living, preventing family violence and advancing gender equity, increasing healthy eating, and tackling climate change and its impact on health. Like the arts strategy, there's been already quite a degree of community consultation and stakeholder engagement that's informed the development of this draft action plan. And that consultation process is outlined in the report. But the recommendation is to go out again for a further period of public consultation specifically around the 4-year action plan before the draft is brought back to the council at the October council meeting, so that we can meet our 29 of October deadline for submission back to the Department of Health.
Thank you, Director Sigona. Any questions, councillors? No questions? They must be happy with the report then. Thank you, Mr. Sigona.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for a motion? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. It's great to see this action plan go out for public exhibition, consisting of 5 priority areas. I'm really pleased to see that the first priority listed is improving mental health, with outcomes being increased awareness, improved access to mental health support services, and increased social connection and participation in the community. The plan sets out goals to deliver activities and programs to engage youth, to lobby funding opportunities for mental health support services, to provide activities for all ages and disabilities, to build social connections, and to encourage and support volunteering. There's a significant list of partnerships noted in the document that we can work with and build on to deliver the outcomes. The action plan is derived from our 4-year council plan, and it's a plan that can improve our standard of living by connecting communities, having more equitable access to support, and promotion of active and healthy living. I'm very pleased to endorse the draft GPS Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Action Plan 2021 to 25. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also believe the action plan is a very important document. It identifies 5 priority areas. I have no doubt that many residents throughout the Shire have been heavily affected by the current pandemic environment we are living in. As a council, we have a duty to ensure that we can do all we can in working with many key providers to offer and make available access to required services and assistance to Golden Plains residents. As Councillor Whitfield said, I also support the Council's Office's recommendation, endorsing the applicable draft to go out for public exhibition and feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I had here in my notes having gone through this document, and it's been noted several times tonight with a few of these strategic documents, how well they are presented, and they are very pleasant on the eyes to scroll through them and see how colourful they are. I think Councillor Gamble referred to the annual report and the acknowledgement of country, and just the first couple of pages of all these strategic documents are just so full of colour and really quite easy to read. I know, having picked up some of these documents in the past, they look tiresome, or they just look quite difficult to read, where these ones are very punchy. It does feed off the council plan and says, we've identified things in the council plan. This is how we're going to deliver some of these things. It will be fantastic to hear from the community. I think it's in particular those people within the community who are going to help us action these things, as Councillor Cunningham and Whitfield have quite rightfully highlighted. COVID has had a huge effect, particularly in mental health. So this document has probably never been so important, or the previous ones haven't been as important as what this one should be. So those external partners from Ballarat Community Health, Arwen Health, Catholic Care, Department of Education, Women's Health, Grampians, leisure networks. There's just an absolute array of external providers that are going to help us action these, and we cannot do that without the funding that's supplied to us, but we can't do it without our partners as well. So look forward to hearing positive and comments and criticism or whatever it is through the public exhibition process. So it'd be very good to hear from all of our partners on this one. But thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's an excellent document in my opinion. It's great to see also it's addressing the effects of climate change, the sort of increasing emergency situation that humanity finds itself in. It's great to see that that's being considered at a local level. In many ways, we're probably going to be affected more than many groups of people in other parts of the world, given our climate where we are in the land. And so in regards to that, the emphasis in education and planning is really important. Also, the impacts are they can be existential in terms of like drought, with people suffering depression, anxiety with long-term impacts. Then there's low-level background impacts, such as the droughts and local extinctions too. Just these type of issues that we know are going on that can be quite stressing in the background, as well as catastrophic impacts that we have to adapt for, as in terms of heat waves, bushfires, possibly floods. In page 15, I note there's support for active transport in the and emission reducing capacity, or reducing activity, I should say. In 5.3, provide support mitigation and adaptation focused activities that enable co-benefits to be realised. We have promote active transport and advocate for more public transport. So it's good to see community buses restarted again, given the stop-start COVID experience it's had. We could also be, one thing I'd like to bring up quickly is a resident asked me a few weeks ago about our preparation for COVID, thinking about what's happened in Shepherd, and with so many people isolating infected, basic society functions were breaking down. Shops, supermarkets, doctors and hospitals, with families couldn't get food because their families and friends were also isolating. It made me think, if this was happening on a wide enough scale, and it still could, but for currently effective vaccination, we couldn't necessarily expect Vic Health or Bowen Health to be able to help provide much assistance to a local government if it's so wide scale across, say, the state. Then it's up to a local government to have a strategy. So I asked CEO Raslis about this, and he was already onto it. So it's good to know. I'll just go one bit more of this. Sorry, I've lost my page here.
That's all right.
At the heart of the draft action, I'm quoting from the report now, at the heart of the draft action plan is empowerment of the community through increasing community members' ownership and control of their own health, well-being and personal development. Well, this is something I believe that we can, that we have a responsibility and an ability to be empowered and look after ourselves as best we can. But I do believe it is the role of local government to provide infrastructure and facilities local solutions to allow people to safely and easily do green exercise. And by green exercise, I mean outdoors. It's been proven to be the best exercise where we're in a natural environment, preferably aerobic, some anaerobic's good, outdoors and with a companion or a team. So I just like to point that out, that that's important, but we have an obligation to provide the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? No one? Okay, then. I'll ask Councillor Whitfield if you'd like to sum up. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I opened this discussion focusing on the mental health aspect, which was the first priority, but I'd like to encourage all residents that can to get a copy and read through. The other areas of action are increasing active living, preventing family violence and advancing gender equality, increasing healthy eating, and tackling climate change and its impact on health. Some great initiatives in all those areas in this document. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.9, the Vago audit sexual harassment in local government. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to note the progress on the findings from the audit report conducted by the Victorian Auditor General's Office on sexual harassment in local government. In February 2021, the Audit and Risk Committee and Council were presented the findings from the audit report. An action plan was developed by Council to incorporate these recommendations and also the requirements of the Gender Equality Act 2020 due to the close alignment. As can be seen in the status table within the report, a number of actions are progressing very well and 2 actions have been completed, which include providing communications in our all-staff weekly newsletter regarding what is sexual harassment, where to go to for help, and further tools and information is being provided. And the second action complete is also creating a dedicated record-keeping folder of information, which is complete and confidential. We will continue to monitor progress to update the council on a quarterly basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for the motion? For a motion, thank you, Mr. Cunningham, and thank you, Mr. Gamble. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm comfortable in supporting the officer's recommendation in regards to the implementation of the action plan as recommended in the Vago report. To follow on from Director O'Sullivan's words, it is pleasing to see many items have been included in the action plan are in progress already or have already been completed. I'd also like to acknowledge the work of the CEO, Director O'Sullivan, and the applicable council officers for their work in this area. I think it's a very important piece of work because it does go a long way to working towards implementing a positive culture within council. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor and Councillor Cunningham. I'm proud to endorse this update on the implementation of the action plan, which seeks to reduce sexual harassment in the Golden Plains Shire local government. Having this quarterly report or update made at a council meeting signals to the community that we think this is an important issue and keeps us informed of the work and progress going on. I know points 10 and 11, where additional training will be coming the councillor group's way that will be consistent with what is provided to staff. Point 11 informs us of a review of the dispute resolution procedures to align with the Vago recommendations as well. So I commend this report. I'll leave it at that. No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any councillor who'd like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, I will then ask Councillor Cunningham to close the debate. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing else to add to that. I think it's all been covered by myself and Councillor Gamble. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Just on that, I'd like to also acknowledge the council staff, the CEO, for being open and transparent in this agenda item, and just noting that it's also it also accounts for councillors as well. So it's not just staff, but there is provision in the Local Government Act regarding councillors as well. So thank you. Item 7.10, Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, Phase 3, Funding Allocation. Thank you, Mr. Josipovic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In May 2021, Council received correspondence from the Honourable Michael McCormack MP, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, and the Honourable Mark Coulton MP, Minister for Regional Health, Regional Communications and Local Government, announcing that the federal government had allocated in its 21-22 budget a further $1 billion for Phase 3 of the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program. In that correspondence, a commitment to an allocation of $2.67 million was made for the Goulburn Plains Shire Council. The guidelines for the extended program had not been released at the time of writing this report, but based on the existing guidelines and available information regarding the extended program, officers believe the key eligibility criteria for projects to be nominated will be similar to those for phases 1 and 2. And those criteria have been included in the report. The key criteria or the key for this particular phase of the program is that the funding will be made available as of January 1, 2022, and all monies must be expended on the approved projects by 30th of June 2023. The Local Roads Community Infrastructure Program was introduced to support local councils across Australia to deliver priority local road and community infrastructure projects supporting jobs and resilience of local economies, and to help communities bounce back from the COVID-19 pandemic. Council was allocated $1.33 million as part of the initial local roads and community infrastructure allocation, a further $1.51 million as part of Phase 2 funding, and now Phase 3 allocation of $2.67 million as mentioned. Council has previously endorsed projects for funding under the Phase 1 and 2 programs. I'm happy to report Phase 1 projects have been delivered and all Phase 2 projects are on track to be completed by the end of 2021 as required under the signed funding agreement. As I mentioned, it is assumed the eligibility criteria for funding under Phase 3 will be the same as for Phase 1 and 2 and will include community infrastructure projects that involve the construction, maintenance and or improvements to council-owned assets, including natural assets that are generally accessible to the public. Projects will need to deliver benefits to the community, such as improved accessibility, visual amenity and safety benefits. The projects must be in addition to current work programs and cannot replace other sources of income. If a project has been brought forward from a future work program, it will be eligible for funding. A key consideration by officers in assessing proposed projects has been the organisation's capacity to deliver, given the requirement of any projects being in addition to business as usual activities. As I mentioned, we have compiled a list believed to be eligible for funding and identified those preferred projects. By adopting the preferred projects, Council will be in a good position to commence preliminary work and nominate projects to the funding agency when guidelines and processes are finalised and released. Influencing factors in nominating the preferred projects included, as I mentioned, capacity to deliver, but also strategic alignment, community benefit, and any identified risks. Table 1 within the report provides the projects recommended by officers. And table 2 within the report provides a list of other projects that officers considered but are not recommending to be funded under this program at this point in time. It is recommended that Council endorse allocating $2.67 million as part of the federal government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program Phase 3 funding to the projects listed in your report, numbered 1 through to 7. 2, note the mirror the Shelford Road Stage 5 project is contingent on securing additional funding of $322,000. And 3, note the list of projects endorsed by Council will be submitted to the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development for final approval. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director. Councillors, is there any questions or items for clarification within the document? Thank you, Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, Phil, just got one. In the recommendation number 5, the public open space asset renewal, $500,000. Will councillors as a collective group get input into where this money goes within the Shire?
If Council requests to have an involvement in that, I'm happy to provide a further report once we... The idea of that amount is to conduct a bit of an audit across the Shire, the whole Shire, and identify priority items that need addressing. So it might be outdoor furniture, it might be paths within open space areas, etc. But we're happy to compile a list and bring that list to a council briefing if you like.
Yeah, because a couple of years ago we identified some of the risks involved with some of the play equipment. So I was hoping we could get some input in how we deliver this money.
Happy to provide further information through a briefing, Councillor
Rowe. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Any other questions, councillors? All right, there's no other questions. Thank you, Mr. Director Josipovic. We have a recommendation for us, councillors. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Gamble?
I'd like to propose an alternative motion, please.
You may, Councillor Gamble.
I propose that we defer this, accepting this recommendation for 1 month in order to consider utilising some of this funding, to consider it about how it's used. The motion is to defer it for a month. Decision on this.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. The decision for 1 month. Thank you. So that would mean bringing it back to the council meeting, next council meeting. Thank you. Does Councillor Gamble have a seconder for his alternative motion? We don't have a seconder, Councillor Gamble, so it wants for the seconder. Sorry about that. Okay, so we'll now go back to the original motion. So do we have a mover for the original motion? Councillor Sharkey. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Rowe. Councillor Sharkey, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This recommendation that's been put for us is allocating $2.667 million, and that is an allocation from the federal government, who have put in a $1 billion overall into this program. So it does highlight in the report here that the guidelines haven't been set as such, and we are endorsing this as with the assumptions that they are going to be in line with the key guidelines that have been in place in previous years, and that is that these projects must be in addition to current work programs and cannot replace other sources of income. And if a project has been brought forward from a future work program, it will be eligible for funding. There is a leg cramping. Sorry, there's a lot of projects in these, and it's always good to note the projects that have made the list. It's also worthy of seeing the projects that do just miss out, and it does show that those projects that just miss out on making the list are slowly bubbling their way to the top of priorities. So whilst we're endorsing this with those there, if the guidelines change from the federal government, we are still able to change a couple of these if need be. But I think that those ones that have been identified there are ones that have been on the radar for a long time. They've worked their way up through community planning and fit into our council plan, fit into all of the guidelines and documents there that we have that guide us to make these decisions. So we did spend between about an hour and a half on a briefing day discussing a lot of these items. So I personally think we've spent a good bit of time on this and these items that have been put here, but appreciate that some of those items there that have missed out are worthy of conversations for another day. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to commend Councillor Sharkey there on what he's delivered. Yeah, look, listen, we've got to keep moving forward. We don't want to be deferring these things. We councils have been elected to make decisions, and we're going to keep on making decisions here tonight. I just noticed the allocation of stage 3, 2.66 million. That's a great outcome. If you go back to stage 1, we only got 1.33. So this is double. This is double for stage 3. And look, the only concern I had was I mentioned before, and if we can, as councillors, can get a little bit of input into where we're going to spend that $500,000 in that public open space asset renewal, yeah, I think all councils will be happy. So Madam Mayor, I'll wind up with those comments, and thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there anyone who'd like? Councillor Gamble?
Perhaps not so much opposing it, but speaking on the motion, considering my non-seconded alternative motion then. I'd just like to explain myself a little bit that with this amount of money, I feel that we could perhaps have more input into the decision making about where it is allocated. And I understand it's hard for the council staff to pivot in many of these issues, but just like when we were at the Shelford community meeting the other day, they had some great plans and things to make a precinct with bollards and for an area for the new playground equipment. And the people there, some of the older citizens who were there, were saying about how they're actually having a lighthearted go at their husband or their friend for not mowing their walking track enough, because they can't actually get out and walk along the river, what they call their common along there, unless it's mowed enough. And so I think having this money here, it could be a great opportunity to do projects such as that are especially important in terms of COVID times, when a lot more people are working from home. And instead of so much money, and there's already been a lot of money spent in capital infrastructure sort of projects like the Meredith Shelford Road, which is going for its 4th and 5th allocation of funding, and I just think maybe that could be paused for one grant application round, and especially since there are flexibility with these guidelines. And I just thought it was worth having a bit more of a think about it. I wasn't actually saying I was going to push for other items to be added or changed, but I would have liked to have more of a discussion about it, especially given the amount of money that's there. And there's so many other projects that would fit into that criteria of community infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Whitfield.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, almost 2.7 million of funding going to 7 significant projects across the Shire from the federal government local roads and community infrastructure program. This is another example of where council staff are right on to funding opportunities that benefit the Shire. Some of the projects listed include the Meredith Interpretive Centre septic system, which had been damaged by vehicle traffic. And this was actually one of the first service requests that I put in as a councillor, which shows that it's taken some time to get to this point, but it's great that it can get done with government funding. The Lethbridge Lakes Boardwalk upgrade, which is listed there, was something that the Reserve Committee of Management had raised with councillors that attended their AGM. So there's a project that's come up through the chain. The public open space asset renewal is great, as it will enable a range of things like amenity blocks and picnic shelters to receive upgrades. And I think Councillor Rowe has a valid point on councillors having some input into where they occur. Some of the projects that didn't make the list for this funding round didn't make it because further costings or design work is needed to be completed, and they might not align with council's current capabilities. So I'll just comment on a couple of Councillor Gamble's comments there. I don't believe he was actually asking for mowing to be done, because I don't think that comes under this funding. I think he might have been talking about infrastructure like a path, but just to clear that up. Yeah, no, look, I'll leave it there. Thanks. I'm content with the recommendation of list of projects put forward by the officers. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? If not, I will ask Councillor Sharkey to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Councillors have spoken very well on that. It is a strong bow that we have there in getting that allocation of just over $2.6 million there. So I'm happy to support this. I'm happy that we're making this decision to not and not deferring it, but Councillor Gambler's, sorry, my apologies, Councillor Gamble's comments there with regards to that Shelford one has been picked up by Councillor Whitfield with regards to the mowing side of things. It is a path that he's sort of looking for or questioning. I would say to Councillor Gambler that this isn't the end of the journey on this, and as Councillor Rowe has identified there, that we do have some other conversations, particularly with that public open space allocation of $500,000, and I would encourage Councillor Gamble to raise some of those issues at that time, and hopefully we as a collective group of councillors have a little bit of input into that and be guided by the strategic documents and the needs and wants of the community. But yeah, this decision here tonight doesn't put a full stop on this. This is to be continued. So I think Councillor Gamble's comments there are very valid, and there will be a to be continued on this, and we can look to do some of those things with the allocation of these funds. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.11, Audit and Risk Committee report for the 14th of September 2021. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report provides a summary of business considered at the 14th of September Audit and Risk Committee meeting. Being the September meeting, a number of the reports considered were end of financial year related and have been included in this agenda. So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for a motion? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder, councillors? Councillor Getson. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Kirby. Just checking it. All the other councillors can hear you, can't they?
Yes, you can all hear me.
That's okay. Getting a bit of feedback.
Thank you.
That's good. Look, no, I really don't have much to say apart from I'm comfortable to the officer's recommendation to receive the audit and risk report from the meeting that was held on the 14th of September. Nothing much else to add there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Getson.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'm having trouble hearing all that, and I'm dropping out on the pictures as well.
Okay, we can hear and see you okay, Councillor Getson, so that's fine.
I couldn't quite hear what Councillor Cunningham finished up saying.
He was just moving the recommendation that and just noting that the meeting that was held with the Audit and Risk Committee on the 14th of September.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
Did you want to speak to it at all, Councillor Getson?
No, I'll just have to agree with what Councillor Cunningham said, because I didn't hear it all actually, but
all right, thank you.
That if I can, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. Is there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? Any councillors who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, Councillor Cunningham, did you want to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing else to add to this item on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 7.12, Audit and Risk Committee Annual Performance Review. Thank you, Mr. Brassless. Oh.
I'll let Ms. O'Sullivan speak. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So under Section 13 of the Golden Plain Shire Council's adopted Audit and Risk Committee Charter, the committee members are required to undertake on an annual basis an assessment of its performance against the charter and provide a copy of the annual assessment for tabling at the next council meeting. This report presents the outcomes from the self-assessment of 2021. The results indicates the committees are satisfied with the performance throughout the year. It was a high scoring average that had been marked, but with 99.5% basically marking it as either adequate or more than adequate. However, it was noted that an opportunity for improvement was around the Audit and Risk Committee members gaining access to advice and or training to improve their skills and knowledge in this space. This feedback will be taken into account for the next 12 months to support the committees and help with the induction program for new councillors as they step into the role as well on the Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Any questions, queries, councillors? None. Okay, thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following on from Director O'Sullivan, and being a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, there have been many clear improvements in the annual performance review in the areas of meeting administration and conduct. And also there are, as Councillor O'Sullivan said, many other areas that have been identified which require attention, and my understanding this action will take place over the next 12 months. As a member of the committee, I have been impressed by the level of reports and the ability to access further information from council officers that attend the meeting. I think myself personally, I think the last meeting that we held last week, I think it was probably the best audit and risk meeting that I'd attended. There was a lot of really good conversation, questions, robust discussions, but I also really appreciated the information that was forthcoming to questions myself and other members of the committee had. So I'm very comfortable with the performance review of the Audit and Risk Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Whitfield, did you want to speak?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm satisfied to note the Audit Committee's annual report and have it submitted to the Minister in line with the legislated timeframes. This report includes the management letter, which indicates that there are no new issues, and it tables the status of previous issues, which are either in progress or have been resolved. This report includes items that have already been discussed tonight, such as the finance statements and the performance statements, and I've made comment on those tonight, and I won't repeat myself here with that. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. Is there any other councillor who'd now like to speak against the motion? Any councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Cunningham to sum up if you'd like to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this point of time, I don't have anything else to add to what's already been spoken. Thank you.
Thank you. If not, I'll put the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.13, Council Governance Rules Review, a draft for public exhibition. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the governance rules were adopted at the Council on the 25th of August 2020, and the new Local Government Act 2020 enables Council to amend its governance rules. And as part of this, we must go out for public consultation, which will follow should the Council propose and endorse these governance rules. Since the adoption of the governance rules, areas for improvement have been identified and amendments are now proposed. These are summarised in the table within the report and mainly relate to procedural aspects of the council meeting process, such as the calling of an unscheduled meeting to be called not only by the mayor, but also now we're recommending required by one other councillor, and that notice of motions to be moved and also seconded before being presented to a council. And in some circumstances, an officer report to accompany a notice of motion when certain matters such as budget, impact on council services, or commits council to contractual arrangements. If council endorses these amendments, the rules will then be placed on public exhibition for 3 weeks, and then any submissions will be heard at the October meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No questions. All right, thank you, Director. We have a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move an alternate motion. I move that Council endorse the review of the governance rules, attachment 1, with the following changes. Amend 25.1.2 to read, be signed by the councillor intending to move the motion at the meeting to be dealt with in accordance with the Rule 33. Remove the proposed addition of 25.2.3, proposes to establish, extend or amend council policy. To place the document on public exhibition for a period of 3 weeks, hear any submissions at the 26th of October 2021 council meeting and consider the governance rules for adoption at the November 2021 council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham? Okay. Councillor Whitfield, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, these governance rules are being amended as a result of efficiency and clarity improvements that have been identified. The rules are there to help councillors comply with the Act and ensure we provide direction with regard to process and policy. The detail and degree of the governance rules will vary depending on the councillor group. I believe these latest amendments with the adjustments as just read out in the alternative recommendation are commensurate with this group. I'm ready to see this go through the public exhibition phase. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak to the
Thank
motion?
you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to say I fully concur with Councillor Whitfield's thoughts, comments, and the proposed alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there any councillors who'd like to speak for the alternative? Thank you, Councillor Sharkey.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Happy to support this as it's going out for community consultation. The decision that we're making tonight doesn't lock us in, and I think the fact that this came to the last meeting, and fair to say that I think the consensus amongst all councillors at the last meeting was that we were pretty much overwhelmed with a lot of stuff there. So I don't think we were able to give it enough due diligence. I would think that we've still got a little bit of more due diligence to give this as we refine some of these items. I think the amendments that Councillor Whitfield has put out there sort of signals to the community that there's opposing views there. I myself could quite happily argue against those and for them. That they both do have merit. I know our neighbouring council, Surf Coast, have gone through the same issue, that they did get a large amount of community consultation back. It is, you know, we do open up our meetings and we do say to the community that we are here for good governance and good practice. So I think there is some more conversations. I think we as a collective group should have some conversations further when the community consultation comes back. As has been outlined, that there is some amendments there that have changed because of some of the actions that we have had in the last year. There is some tidying up of the document, and I think going forward, we can still have some conversations there. We are implementing some checks and balances in that, where the mayor now cannot call for an emergency meeting by themselves, that they do have to have a seconder to that, which is good governance. And that same conversation could be said about moving a notice of motion. So I'm still personally sitting on the fence on that. So I'm really looking forward to public consultation. There is a lot of merit with Councillor Whitfield's changes to that, but there's a lot of merit also on the opposing view there. And it could very well be good practice for us to have reports that come to us and make decisions in a timely manner as opposed to rush decisions. But we're not here tonight to make a decision on that. that will come later on. So really encourage members of the community to have the feedback in this one, and hopefully as a collective group sort of fine tune this document and start to sort of have some in-depth conversations on that. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? Speak for the motion? Councillor Gamble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to draw people's attention to 25.1.3, a new addition there, to reduce the number of days for lodging a notice of motion with the CEO prior to the meeting from 7 days to 6 days. I think this alone will have quite a positive effect on and will address some of the other adjustments to notice of motions to the governance rules here, because what was happening, and just informing the public as well, that we'd have really big briefing days, and it's also the day that you have to have the notice of motion lodged by 5 o'clock. So it meant that sometimes some of these notice of motions, and I confess that I've been at fault in this, may not have been as perfectly worded as they should have been, and perhaps even not adequately thought through enough, because I wasn't able to engage in debate and consultation when these were lodged. So I believe that the many issues that we could be found fault on will actually be addressed just by that simple change there, because after the briefing day, then we can settle back and have a concentrated, focused debate on that particular issue and get the wording or the support between us and work out a better notice of motion or alternatives as they may be. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. Thanks. And thank you, Councillor Whitfield, for his alternative recommendation there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak against the motion? For the Councillor Rowe, against the motion, is it?
No, for the motion, yeah, for the motion.
For the motion?
Yeah, I just want to support Councillor Whitfield there and his proposals, and see what sort of comments we get back from the public, if we can. But you know, a lot of these new changes have come about by some of the issues that we've had of previous, I'd say, by the sound of it. That's why the officers are trying to implement these. But anyway, yeah, I'll look forward to the comments from the public after it goes out for public exhibition. So, but anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rowe. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to sum up if he likes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this is a document that just sits in the background, essentially, and aids us in our process and diligence. Fine tuning it is great, and we welcome the amendments put forward. They are rules that govern us, so we should have a good input into it. It's going to go out for public, so I look forward to what they say. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Whitfield. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 7.14, Gifts, Benefits and Hospitality Register. Thank you, Director O'Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To ensure compliance with our Local Government Act, the Council establishes a record of gifts, benefits and hospitality received by councils and council officers. The Gifts, Benefit and Hospitality Register is to be reviewed annually by the Audit and Risk Committee and then recommended to be noted by council at the council immediately following. I'll take the rest of the report as read. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any questions, councillors? No question. Councillor Sharkey, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just a question through you, Madam Mayor. I do note there on the gift register the acceptance from the Mayor of a Christmas hamper for the value of $50 from Golden Plains Wind Farm, which was retained. I'm just wondering how we feel that one passes through the policy under the under the rule of the gift.
So through the Mayor, in relation to that one, the choice is for each of the councillors to decide on whether they would like to retain the gift or not. There's certainly no, there's no position of whether to decline it, that we can't force that position. As the value was $50, it's considered a token gift, and as a result, it is up to the decision of the gift recipient. Thank you.
Thanks, Director O'Sullivan. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Rowe?
I just think, to be honest with you, councillors or officers shouldn't accept any gifts, full stop. Not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Any other questions, councillors? No, if not, thank you, Director O'Sullivan. Okay, councillors, we have a motion before us. Do I have a mover? Councillor Whitfield. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. Councillor Whitfield, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, this is a one-page register that what it does is aid in transparency. It's great to be able to have any gifts logged and viewed by the public. I notice, not just the Mayor accepted a gift, but also some staff as well. So what seems to be good for the goose can be good for the gander. I'm very pleased with that the report is there, and as I say, it aids in transparency. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, also, I think it does assist council with transparency, openness and honesty within the community, that they can access that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Is there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? Councillor Sharkey?
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Not so much against the recommendation. I don't agree with the comparison of the goose and the gander. I think we as councillors, we are the ones here making the decisions. I'm personally, I was hoping that the Mayor would have answered the question that I did put there. I don't think that I don't think that having a councillor, particular a Mayor, accepting a gift from West Wind Farm, I don't think that passes the pub test in my view. And in our policy, I don't think that passes the gift test, which gift GIFT is the giver of it and the trust there. I don't think that is a good look for us as a collective group. It is highlighted in our gift register there that we shouldn't be accepting gifts from those that lobby council or have planning items. And I note only at our last briefing day, we did have an item where we could have chose to call that item in, which was the wind farm. I just on that $50 item, it's a small, it's insignificant almost, but I don't think that's a good look for us. And I would hope that councillors would gift things like that back to save us as a group. It's in my personal opinion. There's a $50 item there from a group which I refunded. I've personally chosen always to refund items. I think it's a good practice for us, and maybe the policy needs to come back to further strengthen it. But in my personal opinion, items that come from lobbyists, from people that have planning applications, whether it's $1 or $1,000, should not be accepted by us. And I think that's the standard we should set for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? Anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? If not, I'll ask Councillor Whitfield to sum up. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I suppose I should clarify my goose and gander comment. On the gift register, it does note there, and it's out for the public to see, that planning staff have also received a hamper from West Wind. So that's where I was getting at. So if a councillor accepts it, and there would be no difference in influence, perhaps from an actual planning staff member. Not saying either is right or wrong to accept or deny the gift. Just saying that both scenarios would have equal weight. Personally, I agree with Councillor Rowe's comments. I have not accepted any gifts and don't plan to. In fact, I won a raffle a couple of weeks ago, which I donated back to the club because I was a bit concerned. So yeah, a good stance to take, but once again, this document is great in public transparency. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Okay, I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. I'll just sum up on that, the Gifts, Benefits and Hospitality Register. Just for transparency, I did consult with the CEO regarding that gift because it was virtually the close of business as well. It was for Christmas. I did accept it. I was actually prepared to pass it on to the staff, but after consultation, I did keep it. In the past, I do recognise that a lot of our former councillors have accepted gifts. So whether it be tickets to the music festival, if it's been a bowl of jam like I've received in the past, I do recognise that these are gifts, especially when you are the mayor of the day. And regarding the hospitality register, I also think that it should be brought back to council, because I think on one hand, when councillors are offered alcohol or something, especially after a council meeting, it's something that we all should be looking at good practice with. Thank you. Item 8.1, notices of motion, establishing an off-road trail between Teesdale and Bannockburn. I'll now pass this on to Councillor Gavin Gamble. Councillor, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I, Councillor Gavin Gamble, give notice that at the next ordinary general meeting of council to be held on 28 September 2021, I intend to move the following motion. That council request that a report by council officers be presented to council at the October and November ordinary meeting regarding the feasibility and costings of establishing an off-road trail between Teesdale and Bannockburn. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. We have a motion in front of us. Do we have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Cunningham. Thank you. Mover. Councillor Gamble, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this is kind of an exceptional type of motion that I'm putting forward, but I'd just like to give a bit of background and the actual history to this proposal. It goes back there's evidence before 2009, but it's generally agreed. I can remember it coming up when I was a community coordinator that far back, about 15 years ago. It's no one's quite sure how far it goes back in Teesdale. It's kind of like a mythology that one day it might happen, but we've forgotten the details, have been lost in time of like when it was actually first proposed. In the 2016 community plan, one thing about this motion is, this proposal is that it has consistently had the highest support on any Teesdale community plan right through for over 10 years at least. The 2016 community plan, it was solicited via survey sent through the mail to all Teesdale residents and to every group or association within the community. The bike walk track to Bannockburn came out. I'd like to also point out, it's not actually my proposal, this trail. I've always been a road cyclist. Many of you know I'm a cyclist, but I've been a road cyclist and prefer riding on the shoulder and white line at 30 kilometres per hour or thereabouts instead of 20 kilometres per hour. I actually argued against this path proposal in the past, believing it to be better to have decent shoulders on the Vic Road roads. Anyway, I now believe it is best to have both, and including roads with shoulders, which are also beneficial for holding the road together too, by the way. But I think it's important for particularly families and younger people to get out on their bike, like we were talking with the municipal health plan before, to have infrastructure where they can feel safe, and also connected to this track. Proposed track would allow kids to get into Bannockburn at their own locomotion with their friends, their mates. In the past, my boys used to take a very back road way with lots of corrugations up and gravel up the Lethbridge, Teesdale Lethbridge Road, then going on to Scanlon's Road, coming out McPhillips. So anyway, I'm proposing this to look after Teesdale interests, but there is a genuine, it's not my interest, it is the community interest. And if it was coming from Lethbridge or whatever, I'd also say the same thing. There is genuine historical community desire for this path, and it accords totally with what I campaign for on my flyer too, which is, got it here, the township enhancement, the actions to reduce emissions and address climate change, communication, community wellbeing and connections. And lastly, improving transport and quality of life for all citizens. Active transport plus the rise of electric and battery mobility devices are going to revolutionise the use of these sort of paths and trails into the future to make them much more viable as regular commuter alternatives. And this is something that we as a council should be really pushing, especially since we've just agreed to a climate emergency declaration. So here's an obvious project that's just been left behind, somehow missed for over a decade. That's why I'm keen to push it up the list of priorities at this moment. I do recognise that it's that it will cause some disruption, perhaps to council workers, officers, and a budget situation. But I'd like to quote David Bruce, the Teesdale Community Coordinator, long-standing coordinator, who's actually an ex-Ford engineer, goes to Bathurst and things. So he's not your natural cycling advocate, but he too is a representing the community in this. He made an in-person submission in June to this council. On it, there was he said, where am I? He received a letter back from Ben Jordan, who noted in the final council plan, the wording has been strengthened to include the following: 2.1.2 in our council plan, rural paths connecting townships, including further investigation of a Teesdale to Bannockburn path. Then he said, this provides clear reference to council acknowledging the importance of investigating a connection between Teesdale and Bannockburn. So I acknowledge this is an exceptional request, and backing the support from my fellow councillors I'm asking for. I acknowledge it may have budgeting implications. They're minor, I believe, however, and also perhaps they will actually be, by pushing this project up now, it does make it available for pre-election funding with a likely early federal election next year. So it could, in the longer term, actually save us a fair bit of money. I'm also mindful with my upcoming, with the upcoming federal elections, this will be a great project to have a basic feasibility and costing put to, so we can save significant money. The current position is it can't be recommended with speculative costings. And will it last, in my opinion, into the internal budget for a costing and assessment to be made? And if that progresses, because it hasn't over the last 10 years, despite it being the second biggest town in Golden Plains Shire, then we have lost the opportunity for election cycle funding. And if it goes ahead from there, it will be significant but worthwhile cost to our budget. As it stands, my boys, that's relating to how they, my boys are now looking to buy cars and get their license. So it's already a whole generation of Teesdale kids and families that have been waiting and have missed out. Some have said this notice of motion is not demonstrating responsible process, but this proposal has had genuine consistent priority and backing well over a 10-year period. A generation of kids and families in Teesdale. And additionally, there are other benefits to this trail or multi-use off-road path other than travel between Teesdale and Bannockburn, safe and scenic as it is. These include providing a safe path to the lagoon, the industrial estate, and the Bannockburn bush, and even the golf club. If you can carry a golf clubs on a bike, I'm sure it's possible with a trailer hookup, etc.
Excuse me, Councillor Gamble, you've just extended your time, and I was just wondering if you could quickly just sum up.
Okay, last sentence. Thank you. Also, this path will service many of the new residents to come in the estate developments gazetted for the west of Bannockburn. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Councillor Cunningham, would you like to speak?
Nothing else to add there. I was just allowing Councillor Gamble the opportunity to speak and have his proposal heard and minuted. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we have a motion in front of us. Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the motion? Is there anyone? Councillor Sharkey.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm not speaking against the trail. It is and has been identified. I'm sure there's a strong logical reason why it hasn't had its merit 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It is boiling to the top, this item, and it is something that, as we seen earlier on in the report, has just missed out on something. I am opposing the motion. I know Councillor Gamble has spent a large portion of his time there speaking about the need of the project. I'd like to remind councillors that the motion that's in front of us is asking for a report to be presented to council, and with the ordinary meeting regarding a feasibility and costing. So the motion that's been put isn't asking us to allocate, because a feasibility study of this, I've no idea. It is 9 kilometres, nearly 9 kilometres. I don't know myself, but I'm assuming it would be tens or if not hundreds of thousands for a full set of plans ready to go, and have a shovel-ready project is the words I'm looking for. This has been identified. I myself, as a councillor of 5 years, I know that we've had this. This is identified. It is there. It is bubbling to the top, and I'm going to foreshadow that if this motion is lost, I'm just going to foreshadow. I don't feel that I need a motion, but I would like the CEO to note that we as a collective group of councillors receive a little bit of an update on this at an upcoming briefing day, just to get a bit of an understanding of why it isn't, because we as councillors, every action that we make has an equal and opposite reaction. If we were to allocate $10,000, $5,000, whatever it is, to do a feasibility study on that means that an officer in our organisation has to put down something that we've already instructed them through the council plan and budget. We've told an officer, go and do this, and now we're saying, look, can you put that project down? And that might be a project to the north of the Shire or south of the Shire, we're not too sure, but every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Only today I was contacted by a resident, Scott in Lethbridge, that wants some paths and trails in his area, and I've put him in touch with the community planners, highlighted the community plan, and that's going to be happening for him. And I just think that it is good governance for us councillors to do things in a due diligence manner. I had hoped that this item wouldn't have made its way to the public realm, because I don't want to be seen as a councillor that is favouring one township over another. I do fear that residents such as Scott, that's got in touch with me, will ask me next month to put forward a motion for his trails, and I would say no to Scott, but I just don't think that reflects well on all of us. Councillor Gamble, I have no disregard. That is a very valid project. It is warranted. It is bubbling to the top. But I just would personally prefer that if we as a collective group of councillors, this is something that we typically behind the scenes would just ask the officers, the CEO, just to get an update. So what's happening with this project? We get to choose the priority project. So we as a collective group for the past nearly year have chosen not to put this on the priority projects, have chosen not to put it into the budget. And there's reasons for that, but it is brewing, it is getting to the top, and maybe that is the intent of this, is just to elevate it that little bit further. But I'd just like to foreshadow that the CEO notes that we get an update on this in the future. And I just don't want to be seen favouring one township over another. We are here to govern for the whole Shire, and all the points the Councillor Gamble has put forward on this are fair and warranted. With regards to the trail, I am just in opposition to the process. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sharkey. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Rowe, for the motion?
No, I want to speak against, so let someone else
I'm
speak.
asking for someone to speak. Anyone who'd like to speak for the motion? Is there anyone who'd like to speak against? Councillor Whitfield. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I know you've asked me to speak for the motion. I'm possibly going to chop and change, but yeah, look, I would be supportive of the feasibility or costings to be done for this project so that it can be elevated into perhaps the priority projects booklet, where consideration by federal candidates for funding opportunities it can be looked at there. I think that Councillor Gamble raises a good point that election's coming next year, and it's an opportunity we don't want to miss out on. He's right. It's been waiting for a number of years, and it is referenced specifically in the council plan. There are valid concerns, though, that it does draw officer time away from work to be able to compile this estimate. Introducing this mid-cycle is a concern for me, and I suppose that's relating to Councillor Sharkey's comments about process. I appreciate Councillor Gamble promoting his campaign material and pushing the causes on which he campaigned. I should point out that I had a phrase in my campaign material referring to budget efficiency, and I would be reticent to go against that and promote mid-cycle things that might actually cost either in resource time or money. That is a valid concern I have on that. Yeah, I appreciate Councillor Sharkey's point to have this brought forward in a briefing meeting, perhaps in a report format or a discussion format, and see if we can slot it into the priority projects booklet. I believe that's a fluid document. I think that would be a great step forward in getting this trail promoted. It's definitely an item that it's probably been held back a little because it hasn't had the feasibility studies and costings done properly. If it was shovel ready, I'm sure it's a project all councillors would probably get behind when comparing it with what else is going on around the Shire. So at this point, I'll step back from the debate, but I'm leaning towards further discussions on it and briefing reports and getting it into the priority projects booklet. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whitfield. Because against the motion, I think I had Councillor Rowe next. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, listen, I just like to say, like the motion states that council officers present to council costings at the October-November meeting. I don't think this is possible, to be honest with you, by this time. If this was important enough project, it would have been in the budget. And I don't like projects jumping the queue, in my book. This should have been held off as a notice of motion and put in the budget process. And as Councillor Sharkey did mention, to get this shovel ready will cost up to 100K, I think, anyway. Just on another note, while there is merit in this project, as has been on the wish list for a number of years, it needs to go through the appropriate channels and not be fast forwarded. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Councillor Getson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We're elected as councillors. We don't have boards. We do to represent the whole of the Shire. In the north, we don't have paths. The ones we do, the kids can't ride on because they're covered in grass, they're covered in water. Kids use them at Haddon to go to school. They ride their bikes on a path that's not safe. The ones at Scarsdale, a similar situation, riding down to Newtown. Ladies at Smythes Creek, taking their dogs for walks cannot get round the corners for wet, muddy roads, going along Bells Road, which has been some fatalities. We need some stuff in the north, not just everything in Bannockburn area. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Getson. I think everyone's spoken for or against the debate. So I'll ask Councillor Gamble to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I did emphasise how this is an exceptional case, this Teesdale Path, because there's a whole generation of kids and families that have missed out already. So there will be those in the community that might take offence at Councillor Rowe's statement of it jumping the queue, because it's been in the queue for a hell of a long time. There's a lot of things that have gone round and over it. I believe it is a brilliant project to receive federal budget money or federal campaigning sort of money, and I'm not sure how much the costings would be. 95% of this path is pretty straightforward. It's just on rough ground. You could basically do it with a bobcat and lay the stuff down. I know there's more to it than that, but there has been significant work done in the past, and and there has been other survey work, as I circulated today, made on it by knowledgeable people. Also, the councillor gets his points about the northern paths and things too. They're valid, but that's the kind of issue I was trying to address before in my unsupported alternative motion to divert some of the local road and community infrastructure program money onto issues like that, instead of the $1.5 million just going on the Mercer Shelford Road, for example. But anyway, be that as it may, it's not about favouring townships, I don't believe. It's addressing a real community concern and community need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gamble. Okay, councillors, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is lost.
Can I have a division, please?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you may, Councillor Gamble. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Gamble, Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Kirby. And all those against? Councillor Getson, Councillor Rowe, Councillor Sharkey and Councillor Whitfield. Thank you, councillors. Just summing up on that, thank you for bringing your notice of motion forward, Councillor Gamble. The first time I experienced this was when I first came into council in 2008. So I have brought this up numerous times, especially when we had the recreation study just last year. And I was very passionate about the people of Teesdale bringing this forward and making sure it was on the agenda. So hopefully I'd love to see this come up in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
We have no petitions tonight, councillors. There is no urgent business. We have no confidential reports for decision. So lastly, I'd just like to thank the CEO, directors and our online audience for being in attendance tonight. So thank you. And as there is no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 9:45 p.m.